Chapter 1. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Su Qianxi hurried to the Li family's house. I want to see him. Sorry, the young master said. Su Qianxi and the dog are not allowed in. With a bang in her heart, she felt as if something was breaking. She yelled, Li Xiqing, come out. Let's talk. I have nothing to do with Grandpa's death. I was knocked out. When I woke up, Grandpa was already dead. The security guard stared at the scar on her face coldly, without saying a word. Forget it, said a soft voice. A woman who looked to be in her late 20s was standing behind the gate. He will not see you. Grandpa just passed away, and he needs peace. It was her, Li Xiqing's acknowledged lover and once her best friend, Tang Minjing. As Li Xiqing's female companion for 5 years, in the eyes of the media and the public, Tang Minjing had become Mrs. Li in their hearts. And Su Qianxi was just a decoration. She walked down the stairs step by step. The security guard opened the gate because of her arrival. Seeing this, Su Qianxi hated Tang Minjing even more. You two go do something else. I want to talk to her alone. The two security guards looked at each other and quickly nodded. I did not kill Grandpa. I know. Of course you did not kill Grandpa. Tang Minjing smiled and walked outside. Soon, she came to the pond opposite the Tang family's house. There was a road in front of the Tang family's house. There was a pond on the other side of the road. There were no street lights on the other side, so it was extremely difficult for Tang Minjing to tell where she was. Hearing that, Su Qianxi felt something was wrong and hurried to follow her. What do you mean? Of course you did not kill Grandpa. You were knocked out by me. How could you have killed him? Su Qianxi stared at her with her eyes wide open. Was it you? Sure. Tang Minjing put a finger on her lips and smiled proudly. It was really you. You bitch, Grandpa was so nice to you. Why did you? Nice. Tang Minjing sneered. If it were not for that old man, I would be the one marrying Brother Xiqing instead of you. He watched me grow up, and he just doesn't like me. That old man should have died a long time ago. You're too scary. I'm going to tell them. Su Qianxi was about to leave, but Tang Minjing was not afraid and sneered. Do you think they will believe it? Su Qianxi stopped where she was. Just like how you tried to explain that you did not drug Brother Xiqing. Who would believe you? Su Qianxi suddenly turned around and looked at her incredulously. Tang Minjing enjoyed her expression. Just like how you said you didn't set me on fire. Who would believe that? What do you mean, Tang Minjing? Something flashed in Su Qianxi's mind. It's you. Yes, it's me. Tang Minjing sneered. But so what? Do you remember when you came to my house? I almost died from gas poisoning. You said you didn't do anything. Who would believe that? Later, Xiqing was kidnapped by a cult and almost burned to death in an abandoned warehouse. Everyone saw that I saved him, but you passed out at the scene. Who would believe that you didn't set the fire? Su Qianxi was caught off guard when the past was mentioned, and she subconsciously reached out to touch her face. She tried to push Li Xiqing out of the fire, but it was too late for her to escape. The fire destroyed half of her face and her entire life. She was the illegitimate daughter of the Su family. When she came back to the Su family at the age of 18, she knew that the man she was going to marry was called Li Xiqing. However, she did not know that he had a childhood sweetheart named Tang Minjing. Since she married him at the age of 20, she had been constantly compared to him. Tang Minjing was dignified and generous, while Su Qianxi was rude. Tang Minjing was kind and beautiful, while Su Qianxi was cruel. Tang Minjing had studied abroad and married Li Xiqing before she graduated from college. Su Qianxi had foolishly regarded Su Qianxi as her best friend from the age of 18 to 25, not knowing that everything she had was ruined by Su Qianxi. Everyone knew that she was the one who drugged Tang Minjing at the wedding to stimulate Tang Minjing. She was the one who set the fire that almost killed Tang Minjing. She deliberately fell down the stairs and miscarried the baby to frame Tang Minjing. It was almost ingrained that no one saw what she had done to deserve Li Xiqing. When she stayed up late to help Li Xiqing change the plan, they said she was pretentious. When she learned to cook to help Li Xiqing recover from his stomach disease, they said she was scheming. In order to fulfill Grandpa's wish of having a great-grandchild, she dropped out of school to take care of the baby. They said she was not ambitious. After the Su family went bankrupt, they said she was a snob. After the baby was miscarried, they said she had done too much and did not deserve to be pregnant. Even God wanted to take the baby away. Later, she gradually understood that whatever Tang Minjing did was right, and whatever she did was wrong. Until yesterday, when she woke up and found Grandpa dead on the stairs on the first floor. When she looked down from the second floor, the police broke in, and Su Qinxi became the murderer. You bitch. Bitch. Why? Why did you do this to me? Su Qinxi lunged at Tang Minjing. Tang Minjing had learned martial arts. She caught Su Qinxi and pushed her into the pond. Choking on the water, Su Qinxi struggled. Help! Gulp gulp. Chapter 2. The storm faded, and everything was calm again. Su Qinxi's consciousness came back bit by bit, and she clearly felt the pain in her body. There was no part of her body that was not sore and painful. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes suddenly opened. Exquisite wood carvings in ancient Chinese style were hanging on the ceiling. This was the old house of the Li family? Su Qinxi sat up abruptly, but the soreness in her body made her gasp. Sitting there, Su Qinxi found that she was actually naked. On her chest and collarbone, there were blue and purple marks scattered, looking a bit scary. Looking sideways, she saw someone was lying next to her. She gasped and subconsciously pulled the quilt to cover herself, shrinking to the side. The man in front of her was extremely handsome. His thick eyebrows slightly frowned, and he quickly opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, Su Qinxi's eyes were filled with deep amazement. No matter how many times she saw this face, it was enough for her to look at it again. His eyes were as dark as the night sky, with natural arrogance and nobility, with a hazy sleepiness. However, the moment he saw Su Qinxi, his eyes burst out as sharp as an eagle's. At this moment he looked only 25 or 26 years old. Su Qinxi was a bit dazed. Suddenly her arm was grabbed. His face quickly approached, and he growled, Su Qinxi, how dare you drug me? This seemed to be a familiar scene. When she was set up by Tang Minjing to sleep with Li Xiqing, the next day when she woke up, he said the same thing. Looking at him blankly, she quickly said, I will leave. Don't worry. After the divorce, he arranged a large amount of alimony and a house for her. If Tang Minjing had not killed Grandpa in her house, she would not have appeared here. Although she was saved from the water, she did not think that he would want to see her. It must be another evil plan by Tang Minjing. Little did she know how much impact her words had on him. Leave? The woman who had tried so hard to sleep with him wanted to leave after drugging him and sleeping with him? Gazing at the woman, he found that she was not joking at all. There was no trace of her usual arrogance, rebelliousness, and unruliness. Her expression was calm and indifferent, like a person who had experienced despair, and all that was left of her was sorrow. Staring at her for a long while, he sneered and grabbed her hand. What are you playing at now? First you drugged me, and now you're playing hard to get? His voice was very pleasant to listen to, deep and mellow like a cello, but every word that came out of his mouth was filled with dense malice. The woman in front of him had skin whiter than snow, so fair and delicate that not a single pore could be seen. She had a pair of big black grape-like eyes that were slightly panicked and dazed. She was looking at him like a frightened deer, not knowing what to do. I didn't. Let go of me. She wanted to pull her hand away, but found that he was too strong. While he was struggling, the quilt in front of him slid down. He looked down and suddenly felt like thousands of ants were crawling over him, making him very uncomfortable. Damn it! He tried to force himself to look away. Su Qinxi blushed and quickly pulled the quilt over to cover herself. Although she had been married to him for 5 years, she had only had sex with him once. That time, she had only succeeded because Tang Minjing had drugged her. Since then, he had regarded her as a virus. He did not even want to sleep in the same room with her, let alone touch her. At this moment, they were naked, and Su Qinxi's face was as red as blood. Let go of me, Li Xiqing. You can even eat an ugly girl like me. Did Tang Minjing not satisfy you? Su Qinxi was angry. Tang Minjing? So, you still know that you are ugly. Li Xiqing sneered and looked at her panicked eyes. Under her fair nose, her lips were slightly open, moist and full. It was easy to think of one word, suitable for kissing. Swallowing hard, he stared at her lips, and his eyes became deep and mysterious. Su Qianxi suddenly felt humiliated. If it were not for Tang Minjing, she would not have been disfigured. Let go of me. Su Qianxi moved, and Li Xiqing could not help hissing. Don't move, he growled. Ha! Su Qianxi sneered. You want a woman? Go to Tang Minjing. You want an ugly girl like me? Li Xiqing, aren't you a bit too hardcore? Saying that, she felt sad and her eyes became red. For so many years, she had been compared to Tang Minjing in every way. She was not as good as Tang Minjing in every way. Tang Minjing was a fairy, and she was dust on the ground. This feeling was absolutely not good. Li Xiqing's eyes became darker. Holding her hand, he pressed her under him. You want me to go to Tang Minjing for everything? Then why do I need you as my legal wife? Su Qianxi was dazed and suddenly widened her eyes. Legal wife? Seeing her expression, Li Xiqing sneered cruelly. The old man asked me to get that marriage certificate for you. Didn't he want me to have sex with you? He tried so hard to drug me. And then he played this trick on me? Ha! I did not. Su Qianxi was angry. Chapter 3. The storm faded, and everything was calm again. Su Qianxi's consciousness came back bit by bit, and she clearly felt the pain in her body. There was no part of her body that was not sore and painful. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes suddenly opened. Exquisite wood carvings in ancient Chinese style were hanging on the ceiling. This was the old house of the Li family? Su Qianxi sat up abruptly, but the soreness in her body made her gasp. Sitting there, Su Qianxi found that she was actually naked. On her chest and collarbone, there were blue and purple marks scattered, looking a bit scary. Looking sideways, she saw someone was lying next to her. She gasped and subconsciously pulled the quilt to cover herself, shrinking to the side. The man in front of her was extremely handsome. His thick eyebrows slightly frowned, and he quickly opened his eyes. As soon as he opened his eyes, Su Qianxi's eyes were filled with deep amazement. No matter how many times she saw this face, it was enough for her to look at it again. His eyes were as dark as the night sky, with natural arrogance and nobility, with a hazy sleepiness. However, the moment he saw Su Qianxi, his eyes burst out as sharp as an eagle's. At this moment he looked only 25 or 26 years old. Su Qianxi was a bit dazed. Suddenly her arm was grabbed. His face quickly approached, and he growled, Su Qianxi, how dare you drug me? This seemed to be a familiar scene. When she was set up by Tang Minjing to sleep with Li Xiqing. The next day when she woke up he said the same thing. Looking at him blankly, she quickly said, I will leave. Don't worry. After the divorce, he arranged a large amount of alimony and a house for her. If Tang Minjing had not killed Grandpa in her house, she would not have appeared here. Although she was saved from the water, she did not think that he would want to see her. It must be another evil plan by Tang Minjing. Little did she know how much impact her words had on him. Leave. The woman who had tried so hard to sleep with him wanted to leave after drugging him and sleeping with him? Gazing at the woman, he found that she was not joking at all. There was no trace of her usual arrogance, rebelliousness, and unruliness. Her expression was calm and indifferent, like a person who had experienced despair, and all that was left of her was sorrow. Staring at her for a long while, he sneered and grabbed her hand. What are you playing at now? First you drugged me, and now you're playing hard to get? His voice was very pleasant to listen to, deep and mellow like a cello. But every word that came out of his mouth was filled with dense malice. The woman in front of him had skin whiter than snow, so fair and delicate that not a single pore could be seen. She had a pair of big black grape-like eyes that were slightly panicked and dazed. She was looking at him like a frightened deer, not knowing what to do. I didn't. Let go of me. She wanted to pull her hand away, but found that he was too strong. While he was struggling, the quilt in front of him slid down. He looked down and suddenly felt like thousands of ants were crawling over him, making him very uncomfortable. Damn it! He tried to force himself to look away. She blushed and quickly pulled the quilt over to cover herself. Although she had been married to him for 5 years, she had only had sex with him once. That time, she had only succeeded because Tang Minjing had drugged her. Since then, he had regarded her as a virus. He did not even want to sleep in the same room with her, let alone touch her. At this moment, they were naked, and Su Qianxi's face was as red as blood. Let go of me, Li Xiqing. You can even eat an ugly girl like me. Did Tang Minjing not satisfy you? She was angry. Tang Minjing? So, you still know that you are ugly. Li Xiqing sneered and looked at her panicked eyes. Under her fair nose, her lips were slightly open, moist and full. It was easy to think of one word, suitable for kissing. Swallowing hard, he stared at her lips, and his eyes became deep and mysterious. Su Qianxi suddenly felt humiliated. If it were not for Tang Minjing, she would not have been disfigured. Let go of me. She moved her body, and Li Xiqing could not help hissing. Don't move. He growled. Ha! Su Qianxi sneered. You want a woman? Go to Tang Minjing. You want an ugly girl like me? Li Xiqing, aren't you a bit too hardcore? Saying that, she felt sad and her eyes became red. For so many years, she had been compared to Tang Minjing in every way. She was not as good as Tang Minjing in every way. Tang Minjing was a fairy, and she was dust on the ground. This feeling was absolutely not good. Li Xiqing's eyes became darker. Holding her hand, he said, You want me to go to Tang Minjing for everything. Then why do I want you as my legal wife? Su Qianxi was dazed and suddenly widened her eyes. Legal wife? Seeing her expression, Li Xiqing sneered cruelly. The old man asked me to get that marriage certificate for you. Didn't he want me to have sex with you? He tried so hard to drug me. And then he played this trick on me? Ha! I did not. Su Qianxi was angry. Li Xiqing did not seem to hear it. Holding her chin with his big hand, he asked, Do you know what a legal wife is? Su Qianxi stared at him, and did not speak. A legitimate tool. Lifting her chin, he kissed her. Su Qianxi's eyes widened, and she struggled desperately. A legitimate tool? She struggled even harder, turned her head away and yelled, Li Xiqing, we are divorced. You are raping me. Li Xiqing paused slightly. His dark eyes flashed with doubt, and his eyebrows furrowed. Divorce? They had only been married for 3 days. And this woman was already thinking about divorce? What was she playing at? Let go of me. Su Qianxi did not notice his reaction. Struggling with all her strength, she sobbed and roared, So dirty. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. His mouth and his body had been with Tang Minjing countless times. The man who had touched that woman was so dirty, so dirty. Outside the room, there was a knock on the door. Brother Xiqing, are you up? It was her, Tang Minjing. He calmed himself down and looked at the door. Su Qianxi took the opportunity and pushed him to the side of the bed. She rolled off the bed with the quilt wrapped around her body. If you don't want to talk, I'll come in. Tang Minjing's voice was sweet and lovely, like a little girl next door. However, only Su Qianxi knew how vicious she was. The door was pushed open. When Tang Minjing poked her head in, a big red pillow was thrown at her before she could see clearly. Li Xiqing's cold voice came. Get out! Tang Minjing was hit in the face. Before she could see what was happening, she was pushed away by a strong force. The door to the room was pushed shut and locked in one smooth motion. Li Xiqing turned around and looked at Su Qianxi, who had rolled herself up like a mummy. He felt angry and amused at the same time. What was this woman playing at? Su Qianxi's face was covered in tears, but when she looked down, she suddenly blushed again. Su Qianxi turned her head and covered her face. However, she found that her face had become very smooth. Afraid that she was wrong, Su Qianxi touched it several times. It was smooth and delicate. There was no scar left by the fire at all. And Su Qianxi found that she was surrounded by red. The double happiness logo was pasted on the headboard, the door, and even the pillow that Li Xiqing had used to throw Tang Minjing was a festive red. The quilt, the bedsheet. Su Qianxi's eyes fell on the bedsheet. The light red bedsheet and the dried blood were particularly eye-catching. What did it mean? The old house of the Li family, the double happiness logo, and this red. Her heart suddenly raced. She began to think of a crazy possibility. Breathing quickly, she looked at Li Xiqing. What year, month, and day is it now? He looked at her like she was an idiot. You've only been married for 3 days, and you're already so good at acting. Su Qianxi, I really underestimated you. Then he ignored her and walked to the bathroom, holding back the desire in his eyes. Chapter 4. At the age of 20, her facial features still looked a bit immature, but they had slowly matured. Big almond-shaped eyes, thin eyebrows, and a straight nose put together on her oval face, delicate and beautiful. There were some bottles and cans on the dresser, all of which were famous luxury brands. Before she married Li Xiqing, she was encouraged to buy these things by Tang Minjing, who she thought of as her best friend, saying that to show off her identity, nothing should be too bad. She believed it at that time. Under the guidance of Tang Minjing, she bought almost all the famous luxury skincare products that were completely not suitable for her. In the end, they were all thrown into the trash. Li Xiqing saw all of this, and it was these details that made him hate his wife more and more. Every time she thought of these things, she regretted it. She always thought about what she would do if she could go back to the past. She did not expect that this day would really come. She let out a low laugh, and then her laughter became louder and louder. Tears suddenly fell down her face. She died, and she did not die. She was reborn. At that time, she loved Li Xiqing for 5 years, and stayed by his side for 5 years. In order to become a good rich wife, she learned all kinds of etiquette, musical instruments, languages, finance, and business management. As long as he liked it, she learned it all. However, although she was good enough to be a good wife, she did not get any recognition, only endless comparison and contempt. She had lived for Li Xiqing in her previous life. Now that she could do it again, she must live well for herself. Knock knock. Someone knocked on the door, interrupting her thoughts. Who is it? There was silence at the door. No answer was the best answer. She already knew the answer. Not in a hurry to open the door, she opened the closet and saw a full closet of luxury goods. Tang Minjing helped her choose them. Each of them was expensive, but none of them matched her current age and temperament. After frowning for a long time, she still chose her old clothes. This was just an ordinary brand of clothing. Although it did not quite match her identity, it was very suitable for her age and temperament. She climbed to the top and took off her underwear. When she was about to put on her underwear, the door of the bathroom was suddenly opened, and a faint heat wafted over. Startled, she subconsciously covered her chest and turned her back to him. Li Xiqing was wearing a black silk bathrobe, which clearly outlined his strong muscles. He was 188 centimeters tall, and his slightly curly black hair was still dripping water. He stared at her smooth back without blinking. Her smooth, white skin was like the best silk, and there were a few strands of purple marks on it, letting him clearly know the madness and brutality of last night. The atmosphere became awkward. He did not move, and she was too embarrassed to turn around. You! There was another knock on the door, and Su Qianxi's words were blocked. He looked away. Put it on. It was short, but it did not allow for criticism. He opened the door and saw the person outside. Frowning, he asked, "What's up?" Chapter 5. Tang Minjing's voice was not loud, but Su Qianxi already had mixed feelings. In her previous lifetime, Tang Minjing had directly broken in. At that time, Li Xiqing was taking a shower, and she had loudly announced that Su Qianxi had drugged her new husband. Li Xiqing, who was already suspicious, hated her even more. "What's up?" Li Xiqing still asked the same question. Tang Minjing forced a smile and deliberately hid her face behind her, as if she was trying to hide something. She shook her head and said, "Nothing." Li Xiqing's eyes fell on her hands behind her back and quickly looked away. Seeing that he was not going to say anything, Tang Minjing was a bit anxious. She simply threw the thing in her hand away, and the sound of something breaking came from the floor. Tang Minjing exclaimed as if she was scared and said, What should I do?" Li Xiqing glanced at the thing on the floor, and immediately saw the words on it. That was the name of the most famous aphrodisiac. Although Li Xiqing did not study it, he had heard a little about it. Tang Minjing actually carried this with her, as if afraid that Li Xiqing would misunderstand. Tang Minjing quickly waved her hand and said, "Brother Xiqing, don't get me wrong. It is not mine. I am just keeping it for Su Qianxi." "Keeping what for me?" Su Qianxi walked out from behind. took the door from Li Xiqing's hand and opened it. From Tang Minjing's angle, she could see the mottled spots on the wedding bed and the messy bedding. Jealousy suddenly rose in Li Xiqing's heart. Tang Minjing forced a smile and said, "It is the thing you left on the table last night. I was afraid that Auntie would see it, so I put it away for you." Li Xiqing's eyes fell on Su Qianxi's face like a bolt of lightning. However, he did not see a trace of panic on her face. Her dark and bright eyes were as clear as a spring, without any impurities. Hearing what Tang Minjing said, he was a bit confused. He squatted down and picked it up. "What is this? What is it used for?" Although she said that, she had already recognized the real identity of the bottle. Narrowing her eyes, she looked very calm. Curiously, she looked up at Tang Minjing, looking innocent and harmless. Tang Minjing was slightly surprised and quickly said, "Of course I don't know. How would I know the use of such a thing?" "This thing?" She was even more confused and quickly asked, "This thing, what is it?" Tang Minjing gritted her teeth in surprise. How did this idiot girl react so quickly today? It seemed to be a little different. But what was different? Looking down, Su Qianxi's face was pale and rosy. Her delicate and smooth skin was indescribably tender. At the age of 20, it was like a tender peach. From her angle, she could see the bruises under her neckline. Tang Minjing gritted her teeth, her heart burning with jealousy. It was this bottle of medicine that helped Su Qianxi successfully climb into his bed. However, her goal was not just to get Su Qianxi into his bed, but to make him hate her and hate her. Chapter 6. Did I pour a drink last night? Su Qianxi asked. You gave me those 2 drinks, didn't you? Tang Minjing's heart almost jumped out of her throat, looking at Su Qianxi in surprise. When did this woman become so smart? Not only did she not fall into the trap that she had set up, but she had also led her into the pit after many turns. Cold sweat dripped from her forehead. Looking down, Tang Minjing easily saw the mark on her collar. Gritting her teeth, she insisted. You asked me to pour it, didn't you? Su Qianxi, I thought you were a good friend. Why did you? Li Xiqing's eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, staring at Su Qianxi. Feeling a chill, Su Qianxi already had an answer. One was his childhood sweetheart, and the other was his wife who had only been with him for 3 days. Who should he believe? The answer was self-evident. Feeling extremely reluctant, Su Qianxi stood up from the ground, looked at Li Xiqing's sharp eyes and asked, What about me? You, on the other hand, knocking on the door of a newlywed couple early in the morning. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that you were up to no good. Tang Minjing's face paled. Was this Su Qianxi still the same Su Qianxi? How come she had changed so much in just a few days? He had become calm, mature, and smarter. Li Xiqing quickly changed the topic and focused on Tang Minjing. With such IQ and EQ, she was completely different from the unruly girl in Su Qianxi's memory. Was it her illusion? No, impossible. This idiot girl was definitely afraid. After all, if Li Xiqing thought that she had drugged Su Qianxi, there would be no chance for her to make a comeback. Everyone had a bottom line, and Li Xiqing's was unpredictable. However, any kind of scheme would trigger his lightning point, no matter how big or small it was. Blinking, Tang Minjing looked aggrieved. How could I be up to no good? Su Qianxi, what do you mean by that? That's so hurtful. As she said that, her eyes turned red, and her tears fell like soybeans. I was just angry. You can tell me if I made you unhappy. She looked at Li Xiqing and said, Brother Xiqing, I'm sorry. I thought that even if you married another woman, we could still be like before, but I didn't expect. Su Qianxi's heart sank. Tang Minjing. These few words sounded like an explanation, but in fact he was avoiding the important and putting all the blame on Su Qianxi. Sniffing, Tang Minjing squatted down in a hurry. I accidentally broke this bottle. It would be bad if the elders saw it. I will take it away immediately. The more she said this, the more it seemed that she had been wronged. When Tang Minjing was about to pick it up, a cold voice came from above. Get up. She looked pitifully. Tea and Li Xiqing. Su Qianxi. She picked up the glass. Li Xiqing pulled Tang Minjing up, looked at Su Qianxi and said, Clean it up. It's okay, Brother Xiqing. Tang Minjing looked pitiful with her watery eyes. Chapter 7. However, Li Xiqing did not look at Tang Minjing. He quickly looked away and said coldly, "You go first. After all, this is a wedding room." Although his attitude was still cold, it was much better than when he was with Su Qianxi. Tang Minjing was pleasantly surprised. Was he thinking of her and helping her get out of it? Her heart felt like it was covered with honey. She just said okay, and turned around, looking back several times as she walked away. Li Xiqing's curly short hair was still dripping water. He squinted at Su Qianxi, his eyes cold and mysterious without any emotion. Soon he turned around and went back to the room. Su Qianxi stood at the door, looking at the broken glass on the floor, her hands in her arms. "Tang Minjing, Li Xiqing, Su Qianxi will get back at you little by little for the life you ruined." It was already past 10 o'clock in the morning when he was done cleaning up. After a night of indulgence, Su Qianxi's body was sore. Even when she walked, she felt her legs were trembling. "Hey, you're up so late? You're indeed a mistress. Our Tang Minjing is not so lucky." A sharp voice came. Su Qianxi looked over and saw a lady in her 40s or 50s. Mrs. Li was talking to a rich woman next to her. Hearing the voice, she also looked over with embarrassment and dissatisfaction. This was the Li family's neighbor for many years, Mrs. Tang, and also Tang Minjing's biological mother. She had thought that the Tang family and the Li family were going to be married, but Su Qianxi suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It was normal for Mrs. Tang to be angry. In her previous lifetime, it was this sentence from Mrs. Tang that brought her a lot of trouble. At that time, Su Qianxi considered herself the mistress of the Li family and had a bad temper. When Mrs. Tang said something so obviously against her, Su Qianxi was immediately angered and immediately replied, "This is my home. Why do you care so much?" That was exactly what Mrs. Tang wanted. Then, all the rich women started to criticize her, and her reputation became worse and worse. Since then, all the rich women knew that the Li family had married a lazy daughter-in-law, who did not know any manners, which ruined half of the good reputation of the Li family. It was precisely this incident that started the nightmare of endless comparison between her and Tang Minjing. But now, of course, she would not repeat the same mistake. Hearing this, she lowered her head slightly and said shyly in a low voice, "I slept a little late last night. I was too tired, so." Seeing Su Qianxi like this, the ladies sitting on the sofa waiting to see Li Xiqing's daughter-in-law all had ambiguous smiles on their faces. Today was not only the third day of her marriage with Li Xiqing, but also Li Xiqing's mother's birthday. Mrs. Li's birthday was very grand every year. It was only early in the morning, and the people who came were all Mrs. Li's close friends and neighbors. They were very interested in this daughter-in-law of the Li family. "Oh my, is this your wife? She's so beautiful." "That's right. When she said she's from the Su family, I thought, yeah, I didn't expect her to be Elder Su's granddaughter. She really looks like her mother." Chapter 8. She had been an orphan since she was a child. Except for her name, she had nothing else. It was not until her uncle brought her home at the age of 18 that she learned that she was the granddaughter of a famous family in Kingstown. The daughter of the Su family, Su Han, was pregnant out of wedlock and disappeared 18 years ago. No one knew if she was dead or alive. Hearing that, Mrs. Li did not look too happy. She glanced at Su Qianxi coldly. Su Qianxi knew that Mrs. Li hated her, so she did not want to get on her bad side. She smiled at the ladies who were praising her, but did not say anything. She walked up and said, "Mom." Mrs. Li did not want to be nice to her, but in front of so many people, she had to hold back her dissatisfaction. She nodded and looked at her expressionlessly. "Auntie, happy birthday." Tang Minjing's voice came with surprise and joy. She looked over and saw Tang Minjing walking in with a big box in her hand, smiling brightly. Tang Minjing was good-looking in the first place, with thin eyebrows and big eyes. Her nose was straight and round, and her sharp chin seemed to have been deliberately cut with a knife. Her lips were pink, and her eyes were curved when she smiled. When Mrs. Li saw her, a smile immediately appeared on her expressionless face. She said to her, "Why are you here so early? You just came back from Australia a few days ago. Why don't you sleep a little longer to get rid of the jet lag?" Tang Minjing playfully stuck out her tongue and said, I have been back for a few days. Today is your birthday. How can I not come to congratulate you because I was sleeping? She approached with a smile and put the big box in her hand on the coffee table in the middle of the ladies. What is this? I am so jealous. We can receive gifts from Tang Minjing every year. Poor us. We are also neighbors, but Tang Minjing does not care about us so much. Exactly, but I thought Tang Minjing would become your daughter-in-law. I did not expect. However, before Mrs. Zhang finished, Mrs. Li next to her patted her hand. Mrs. Zhang's smile suddenly froze, and she looked at Tang Minjing awkwardly. Tang Minjing seemed a bit embarrassed and blushed. Soon, everyone looked at Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi acted as if she did not hear it, standing on the side and looking forward. Meeting their eyes, she smiled gently and said, I'll go cut some fruit for you. Sit down first. No, the servants will do that. Mrs. Li's smile faded. Sit down, in case someone says I mistreat my daughter-in-law. No matter how stupid those noble madams were, they could tell that something was fishy. True, she was an illegitimate daughter. Furthermore, it was an illegitimate daughter of an unknown father. What right did she have to marry into the Li family? If it were not for the insistence of Li Xiqing's grandfather, even threatening to kill himself, no one in the Li family would agree to let Su Qianxi in. In Mrs. Li's opinion, Su Qianxi did not deserve to be the daughter-in-law of the Li family. Su Qianxi sat down in a corner, discreetly staying away from Mrs. Li. In her previous life, she naturally sat next to Mrs. Li and was driven away by Mrs. Li. Not only was she embarrassed, she was also ridiculed by Tang Minjing. Chapter 9. It's okay. Tang Minjing smiled. I like to prepare gifts for Auntie. Open it and have a look. Mrs. Li did not refuse. She quickly pulled off the ribbon and opened the layers of packaging. Finally, she saw a beautiful green cheongsam. Everyone was stunned when they saw it. So beautiful. Is this embroidery? It's so beautiful. Mrs. Li could not stop smiling. Hearing the compliments around her, she looked proud and happy. Mrs. Tang came over and chimed in. My Minjing is really good with her hands. Look at the craftsmanship. It took her a long time to finish it. It took her a long time. Her words caused a stir among the ladies. Everyone was surprised. Tang Minjing made it herself? Amazing. She is so skillful. Wow, so skillful and beautiful. Tang Minjing, come and be our daughter-in-law. Tang Minjing smiled gracefully, looking like a lady from a respectable family. She accepted all the compliments without being stingy at all. Mrs. Li sighed in her heart. What a sin. If only Tang Minjing was her daughter-in-law. Why did she marry such a woman? Thinking of that, she gave Su Qianxi a resentful look, and the smile on her face faded. Su Qianxi knew exactly what Mrs. Li was thinking. What was happening now was exactly the same as what had happened in her previous lifetime. Everyone was praising Tang Minjing, and Su Qianxi was the foil. However, at this time, Su Qianxi, what gift did you prepare for Auntie? Tang Minjing successfully changed the topic to Su Qianxi. She smiled gracefully and kindly, just as she expected. In the eyes of others, this kind of action was a kind act to avoid her embarrassment. However, Su Qianxi knew that Tang Minjing was just trying to embarrass her. Back then, Su Qianxi had smiled awkwardly at Tang Minjing's kindness. Her gift was a luxury that the Su family had specially prepared for her. But it was nothing compared to the cheongsam that Tang Minjing had made herself. After Tang Minjing took it out in front of everyone, Mrs. Tang said, how could she be the daughter-in-law of the Li family? She became the object of everyone's disgust. Everyone complimented Tang Minjing, and Mrs. Li hated this daughter-in-law even more. She could not wait for Li Xiqing to divorce her and marry Tang Minjing. In the end, it was Tang Minjing who spoke up to resolve the awkward situation. At that time, Su Qianxi was too naive to know that she had planned it. She was very grateful to Tang Minjing. In her previous life, she had always been optimistic and kind. She didn't want to think of human nature as evil, but she didn't expect that it was this kind of mentality that ruined her life. In this life, she would never make the same mistake again. Su Qianxi smiled and did not immediately answer. Instead, She looked at the green cheongsam in Mrs. Li's hand and asked in surprise. Minjing, did you become the disciple of Kingstown cheongsam? Chapter 10. Su Qianxi looked even more puzzled. But I think this embroidery style is indeed the technique of the old Kingstown cheongsam master. Look, there is a little curve where the needle ends. This is the unique technique of Mr. AI. Tang Minjing's smile froze. Mrs. Tang directly slapped her hand away and said grumpily, You only know how to brag. If you want to suck up to Tang Minjing, you should be more direct. She is indeed very good at embroidery, not something you can compare with. Mrs. Li was also a bit unhappy. Looking at Su Qianxi coldly, she said, What do you know? You have only seen a few kipeos. And you are talking about embroidery. Don't embarrass yourself. Hearing that, Tang Minjing's expression softened a bit. Although he didn't know how this idiot girl knew, no one would believe the words that came out of her mouth. Sure enough, the rich ladies all looked at Su Qianxi with condemnation. Mrs. Li said, Tang Minjing spent so much effort to make a qipao for your mother-in-law. Isn't it inappropriate for you to say that? If you are good at it, you can give it to her, but don't slander her. That's too mean. I was wondering why your mother-in-law did not like you. Now I finally understand. With such a daughter-in-law, even I would not like her. Don't say that. Tang Minjing looked sympathetic. Su Qianxi did not do it on purpose. Maybe she made a mistake. What did she make a mistake? Mrs. Tang's voice was a bit sharp. If she made a mistake, how could she say that? If she made a mistake, she would go to heaven. Su Qianxi glanced at Mrs. Tang coldly and said, Mrs. Tang, this is indeed Mr. AI's work. I have proof. Mrs. Tang sneered and looked disdainful. I thought the Su family brought you back and taught you for 2 years. Now I finally know. You are a bitch in your bones. No matter how much you are taught, you will never make a difference. That was sarcastic and mean. The rich ladies became silent and looked at each other. The atmosphere became a bit weird. That was really a bit harsh. Everyone looked at Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi's face darkened as she pinched her arms. Everyone thought that Su Qianxi would definitely be angry. After all, no one could bear to listen to such words. And Su Qianxi was famous for her bad temper. But no. Su Qianxi just glanced at her coldly and sneered. It's really hard to change the inferiority in your bones. A spoiled thief became a rich lady, and her daughter is also dirty. Hearing that, Mrs. Tang's face changed. When she was young, she was a habitual thief. However, after she married Tang Minjing's father, this dark history should have been forgotten. How did this be *tch know? Subconsciously looking at the ladies, they all looked confused, obviously not knowing what Su Qianxi was talking about. Suppressing the shock and anger in her heart, Mrs. Tang looked away and screamed, What do you mean? I have proof that this cheongsam was made by Mr. AI of Old Kingstown, not Tang Minjing. Su Qianxi spoke clearly. Chapter 11. You know very well whether I am making things up or not. Su Qianxi glanced at her coldly. Tang Minjing's heart raced when she saw Su Qianxi's gaze. At that moment, something seemed to shoot out of Su Qianxi's eyes and pierce through her own. That was hatred. The hatred was so thick that it chilled her to the bone. However, when Tang Minjing looked at it again, it immediately disappeared. It was as if it was just her illusion. Was it an illusion? Su Qianxi suppressed the urge to bite the woman to death and said calmly, Mr. AI of Old Kingstown cheongsam has an Arab wife named Happiness. So, every time he makes a dress, he will leave his symbol on the collar. It is an Arabic word, which means happiness. Bulsh *t. You know Arabic? Mrs. Tang looked disdainful. You will see if I am Bulsh *t. Su Qianxi flipped up the collar. Seeing the black characters on it, Mrs. Tang blurted out, This is just ordinary embroidery. How can you prove that it is Arabic? Su Qianxi had expected that and called, Auntie Lu. Auntie Lu was dazed by Su Qianxi's calmness. Caught off guard, she immediately responded, Yes. Can you ask Li Xiqing to come out for me? Then she looked at Mrs. Li. You don't have to believe me, but you have to believe your son. He knows 8 languages, and maybe Arabic is one of them. He'll know if it's true or not once he takes a look. Mrs. Tang panicked and shrieked. What do you mean? Do you think Tang Minjing is lying? Su Qianxi sneered. I don't know if it is a lie, but this is definitely Mr. AI's embroidery. Forget it, Mom, Tang Minjing said. Tang Minjing said, Qianxi, it is not a big deal. Why do you have to be so aggressive? If you say so, then so be it. No. Su Qianxi's heart was trembling with hatred. It is not a big deal for you. But what your mother said just now was really hurtful. Tang Minjing did not say anything and looked at Mrs. Tang with blame. Everyone had heard what Su Qianxi said. It was indeed outrageous. No one felt that Su Qianxi was wrong. Even Mrs. Li was a bit angry. No matter how much she disliked Su Qianxi, she was her daughter-in-law. She felt embarrassed. If it is proven that I am right, Mrs. Tang, you have to apologize to me, Su Qianxi said. Mrs. Tang looked displeased. Why? You don't dare. You're afraid that I'll expose your lies, right? Mrs. Tang's face darkened. If she insisted on not letting Aunt Lu call Li Xiqing, wouldn't she be admitting that she was lying? In this way, not only her reputation, but also the Tang family and Tang Minjing's reputation would be ruined. Su Qianxi was that Li. Li said Qianxi would have said that Xiqing could sue Minjing at. Tang Su said, Li Shi Su Qiu. Li said, Su Shi. Chun, Su Tang Li Mrs. Tang. Li Su I. Chapter 12. Then go and call him, Mrs. Li finally said. Ask him to come out and explain so that you will give up. Her voice was cold, but Su Qianxi was not sure if Mrs. Li was talking about Su Qianxi or Mrs. Tang. Lu Auntie nodded and quickly ran inside to call Mrs. Li. When Li Xiqing came out, he was wearing casual home clothes, a gray cotton V-neck shirt with white casual pants. Tall and handsome, his dark eyes were like waves, and his red lips were tightly pursed as he stepped forward. Seeing the silence, he frowned and subconsciously looked at Tang Minjing, asking, What's wrong? Habits were hard to change. The first person he saw was never Su Qianxi, but Tang Minjing. Su Qianxi felt sad, but she quickly suppressed it. Tang Minjing looked aggrieved and wanted to say something. However, before she could, Mrs. Li waved at her and said, Xiqing, come here. Look at this embroidery and see what it is. Li Xiqing looked away and casually walked over. He glanced at Su Qianxi and saw the resentful and aggrieved face, delicate and pretty. Although not as stunning as Tang Minjing, it was very attractive. His gaze paused for a second and quickly fell on the collar in front of him. Tell me, is this Arabic? Li Xiqing nodded. Yes, it means happiness in Arabic. As soon as he said that, Su Qianxi's eyes suddenly became red, and she felt wronged and sad. And Mrs. Tang's face was pale. The ladies looked at each other, feeling sorry for Su Qianxi and sympathetic, while looking at Mrs. Tang and Tang Minjing with a more complicated look. What's wrong? Li Xiqing still did not know what had happened. Seeing Su Qianxi's eyes were red, he frowned. Su Qianxi felt his gaze and looked up. In an instant their eyes met. Li Xiqing's eyes were always cold and unfathomable. She had never seen a person's eyes so cold. It seemed that even if a mountain collapsed in front of him, he would not be moved. No matter what she did, he was always indifferent and mysterious. It was also this pair of eyes that caused her to sink into depravity for a lifetime and suffer for a lifetime. However, it would never happen again. It would never happen again. She would never love him again. Absolutely not in this life. Su Qianxi avoided his slightly inquisitive gaze and looked at Mrs. Tang. Mrs. Tang, shouldn't you apologize? Mrs. Tang did not look good, but Tang Minjing, who was standing behind her, stepped forward and said to Mrs. Tang, I'm sorry, Mom. I lied to you. As soon as this apology fell, the ladies all exclaimed in disbelief and looked at each other in dismay. Mrs. Li was also shocked, finding it hard to believe that she would do such a thing. Chapter 13. That explains a lot. A lady who was close to Mrs. Tang said, Mrs. Tang is not in good health, and Tang Minjing is just being filial and does not want to disappoint her. Tang Minjing lowered her head guiltily, turned around and bowed sincerely. Sorry, I did not explain in time. It was not on purpose. I was going to explain to you later. I did not expect Su Qianxi to be so serious. That's right. How petty of you to hold on to such a small matter. Mrs. Tang said. The Su family did not teach you well either. She is just an illegitimate daughter of the Su family. I really do not know what Captain Li is thinking. In her opinion, Tang Minjing should be the one to marry into the Li family. Mrs. Li did not look too happy. After all, Tang Minjing was her daughter-in-law. No matter how much she disliked Tang Minjing, she was still humiliated. What do I think? It seems that my niece-in-law really wants to know. An old voice chimed in full of energy. Everyone was shocked and turned their heads to take a look. Captain Li. Captain Li. Dad. The person who came in was an old man who had already entered his 60s. However, he was still strong despite his age. His back was straight, and his every movement revealed the heroic bearing of a frontier soldier. This was one of the people that Su Qianxi respected the most, the leader of the Li family, and the person with the highest status in the family, Captain Li. Seeing the old man, Su Qianxi couldn't help straightening her back, which was the result of years of habit. She did not know that in Li Xiqing's eyes, her habitual movement made his already deep eyes even darker. Hearing the voice of Captain Li, Mrs. Tang's chubby face paled, and then she quickly explained, No, Captain Li, I just said it casually. Don't take it to heart. How would I know what you think? Su Qianxi sneered inwardly. When he was facing her just now, he was so arrogant that his tail was about to stick up. But when he was facing his grandfather, he was so timid. The difference was really not a little big. With just a few casual words, you're able to criticize the granddaughter-in-law that I personally selected. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that you came to my Li family to declare war on me, Li Sun. His voice was neither soft nor heavy, but it was full of authority. Mrs. Tang was startled by such a compliment. When she was about to explain, she was stopped by a pair of hands. Tang Minjing held her mother's hand and looked at Captain Li. Grandpa Li, long time no see. Captain Li glanced at her and nodded. His eyes fell on Su Qianxi, and a happy smile appeared on his old face. He waved at her and said, Qianqian, come to Grandpa. Qianqian. She had not heard such a term of endearment for a long time. Since she was framed as an arsonist by Tang Minjing, Grandpa had not called her that. At the very least, it should have been 2 years. Su Qianxi's eyes were slightly wet. She stepped forward and stood beside him, calling, Grandpa. Good girl. Captain Li smiled so much that the wrinkles on his face were all folded. He was so kind that it was hard to associate him with the old captain. Did you sleep well? Are you used to living in the old house? Chapter 14. You will get used to it. In this family, I don't think anyone bullies you, right? No. Everyone in the family is very nice to me. No one bullies me. Su Qianxi was very sensible. Captain Li nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, That's good. If anyone bullies you, you must tell Grandpa. Not only in the family, but also outside the family. Everyone at the scene was smart, so they naturally understood that there was a hidden meaning in Captain Li's words. Mrs. Tang's face became paler, standing on the side, not daring to speak. Tang Minjing smiled and walked up to Captain Li. Grandpa, you are right. Brother Xiqing is at home. Even outside I will be there. You can rest assured. Captain Li heard that, glanced at her, sneered and said, It is good that you can think that way. Tang Minjing smiled and was about to say something, when Captain Li suddenly turned his head and looked at Li Xiqing, who had been silent. Xiqing. The sudden change made Tang Minjing swallow the words she was about to say. She could not say it, but she could not say it either. She was extremely embarrassed. Grandpa. Li Xiqing was still calm, standing in the corner like an immortal who had nothing to do with him. Hearing Captain Li's voice, he walked over and appeared in the center of everyone's sight. If I remember correctly, today should be the 3rd day of your wedding, right? Why don't you take your wife home? Pursing his lips, Li Xiqing was obviously reluctant. However, seeing his grandpa's stern look, he had to agree. Yes, I am. Humph, I know you well. Captain Li patted him on the shoulder. Don't embarrass the Li family. Okay. Li Xiqing put his hands in his pockets, squinted at Su Qianxi, and slowly walked into the room. The ladies all looked at each other. Everyone could tell that Captain Li was protective of Su Qianxi and did not like Tang Minjing. Captain Li had embarrassed Mrs. Tang and Tang Minjing in public, but he had supported the illegitimate daughter of the Su family. If this got out, everyone would have to respect Su Qianxi, not to mention bullying her. After all, Li Sun's reputation was much more useful than the Li family's. Today is your mother's birthday. Didn't you prepare a gift? Hurry up and take it out. Captain Li kindly reminded him. She nodded and walked quickly to the room. The present was prepared by the Su family. It came with her dowry and was kept in the cabinet in her room. However, as soon as she opened the door, she saw Li Xiqing picking out clothes with his upper body bare. She blushed, pushed the door half closed, and quickly walked to the cabinet where the gifts were placed, deliberately not looking at him. He walked to the side of the cabinet where the gifts were placed. When he turned around, he suddenly bumped into a wall of flesh. She exclaimed and subconsciously stepped back. However, the cabinet was short, and when she stepped back, her leg was hit and she fell down. However, when Su Qianxi thought she was going to fall, a long and powerful arm wrapped around her waist. Chapter 15. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat, but her reason made her come back to reality. Standing up, she pushed him hard. Her hand touched the smooth and delicate skin and the well-defined muscles, and her face suddenly burned. This man was a monster. Not only was his face good-looking, but even his skin was the tan that many people dreamed of, and even his body. Thinking of the magnificent thing in her mind, Su Qianxi couldn't help but twist uncomfortably, shaking her head hard, trying to get rid of the dirty thoughts. Quickly looking away, she looked up and saw his deep eyes. For some reason, Su Qianxi explained, "I still have to give Mom a gift. You continue." But when Su Qianxi was about to run away, her arm was firmly caught. "Continue." Li Xiqing's voice was very low and mellow, like a cup of carefully brewed hot coffee, intoxicating and memorable. Su Qianxi was caught off guard, and her body was suddenly pressed against the wall. A pair of beautiful big eyes widened. Su Qianxi looked at the man in front of her, her dark eyes filled with a layer of surprise. "Do you know what I just wanted to do? Let me continue." Huh. His voice was low and lingering, and Su Qianxi's heart could not help but speed up. Some people said that when a man was the sexiest, it was when his voice went up. She did not know about other women, but she was so nervous. Looking at his dark and deep eyes, Su Qianxi swallowed and timidly said, "Don't you want to change clothes? At least cover this sexy figure first." Fortunately, the Su Qianxi now was the Su Qianxi of 5 years later. If it was the Su Qianxi of 5 years ago, she would have already been drooling over him. I wanted to, but now she did not want to. There was an imperceptible sense of danger on his face, but his lips curled. "You want to leave?" Suppressing the restlessness in her heart, Su Qianxi nodded quickly and pushed his hand away, saying quickly, "I'm going to give Mom a gift." She did not expect to be pushed away. Su Qianxi did not dare to stay any longer and ran away. He even closed the door on his way out. Li Xiqing looked at the door, narrowed his eyes, and looked at the mirror not far away. The man in the mirror had well-defined muscles and a handsome face. If it were the old Su Qianxi, at the moment he pushed her against the wall, she would have directly fought back and loudly declared, "We are husband and wife, and we have to fulfill our obligations as husband and wife." But now, pretending? Wasn't his acting a little too real? But really? How could there be such a huge change in just one night? He calmly retracted his gaze and walked toward the wardrobe. Whether it was real or fake, wouldn't they know once they tried? Su Qianxi had no idea that she had been suspected. Full of anticipation, he took out the gift. When he returned to the living room, everyone's eyes were on him. Trying to make herself look natural, she walked forward in her most generous posture. Mrs. Li looked at Su Qianxi with curiosity and gratification. At least his daughter-in-law wouldn't lose face in front of his grandfather. Chapter 16. Grandpa, this is the pen my uncle asked me to bring to you. I wish you happiness and good health. Captain Li didn't show any emotion on his face. He smiled kindly and said, "I have one too." Haha, thank your uncle for me. Since there was an order, gifts should be given from the oldest to the youngest. Su Qianxi saw his smile, and there was a trace of understanding in her beautiful eyes. This pen was not a gift from her uncle, but her own. When she was shopping with Tang Minjing, she saw it was very pretty, and was persuaded by Tang Minjing to buy it. She spent more than 100,000 yuan, and had not used it since. However, not long after, Tang Minjing pointed it out, and accused her of being wasteful, which caused her to be despised by everyone. Now, she was going to take out the pen and lie in front of Tang Minjing. According to her understanding of Tang Minjing. Hey! Tang Minjing looked surprised and said, "Isn't this the pen I went with you to buy when I first came back? How did it become your uncle's?" Just as she expected, with Tang Minjing's personality, she would never sit back and do nothing. However, Su Qianxi was not afraid of being exposed. What she was afraid of was that Su Qianxi would not expose her. Su Qianxi blushed and stammered. Seeing this, Tang Minjing immediately said, "Maybe I remembered it wrong. It is just the packaging. It should not be the one you bought for 100,000 yuan, right? The one bought for 100,000 yuan?" Hearing these words, Mrs. Li and Captain Li both frowned a little. Su Qianxi immediately shook her head. "How could it be a random one? I picked it out." She quickly covered her mouth, regretting that she had let it slip. Hearing that, Tang Minjing blamed her. "Su Qianxi, why did you?" She stopped in the middle of her sentence, but it gave people more room for imagination. Su Qianxi had to admit that this trick worked. However, this was exactly what she wanted. Su Qianxi looked nervous and whispered, "I." Captain Li looked at Su Qianxi and began to take the pen apart. The pitch-black fountain pen felt cold and heavy in his hand. The pen head and the pen holder were inlaid with a little diamond, but it looked very elegant and low-key. Captain Li smiled happily. "You have a good eye. Did you choose this?" Su Qianxi nodded with a blush and said, "This design looks ordinary, but in fact, it is very exquisite, low-key and luxurious. I think it suits Grandpa very well, so he flattered Captain Li without batting an eyelid, and 2 more wrinkles appeared on his face. "It's just a gift. Why did you use your uncle's name? You lied in front of so many people. If I didn't know better, I would think that the Li family's daughter-in-law lacks discipline." Mrs. Tang looked disgusted, "Because I know that Grandpa is a very thrifty person. If he knew that I spent so much money on a pen for him, Grandpa would not be happy. So I simply pushed it to Uncle. Anyway, he would not know." She playfully stuck out her tongue and timidly looked up at Captain Li. "Grandpa, you won't be angry, right?" Chapter 17. Captain Li's words reminded all the ladies of the Qipao incident. They all looked at Tang Minjing with a strange look. Tang Minjing clenched her fists and smiled. However, it was a bit forced. As if he had said that carelessly, Captain Li pretended to be displeased and said with a straight face, "Don't do it again. I will accept it this time, but don't cheat your uncle in the future." "Okay." Su Qianxi nodded, and happened to see a tall and handsome figure walking out of the room. The first thing Li Xiqing saw, when he walked out, was her beautiful smile. Her slightly immature face was smiling like a flower, as if there was a layer of faint halo around her. Beautiful. That was what Li Xiqing was thinking at the moment. He looked away and walked away. "Let's go." As he said that, he was already walking toward the door. Cold. So cold that it was not like he was facing his new wife. Tang Minjing let out a sigh of relief, and felt a bit proud. She looked at Su Qianxi with a bit of provocation. She thought the plan last night was flawless. She just needed to add fuel to the fire, and Su Qianxi would no longer be able to stand straight in front of Li Xiqing. At that time, no matter how much this idiot girl tried to please the old man, it would all be in vain. After all, she was married to Li Xiqing, not Li Sun. Tang Minjing would be the second wife of the Li family sooner or later. Seeing Li Xiqing like this, Captain Li sighed inwardly. It seemed that it would take some time for them to get to know each other better. Su Qianxi was already used to it. She looked at Mrs. Li apologetically and said, "Mom, I'm sorry. Your gift, go." Mrs. Li had a smile on her face. She had changed a lot about Su Qianxi. It seemed that this daughter-in-law was not as bad as she had imagined. Li Xiqing did not take the driver with him. He drove straight to the door and found that Su Qianxi was already waiting for him. Glancing at her, Li Xiqing opened the door and got in. He did not say a word during the whole process. Knowing that he hated her, she did not say anything. In her previous lifetime, she could not hold back her anger because of Tang Minjing in the old house of the Li family. Captain Li did not even go into the hall, so Su Qianxi did not know that Captain Li knew everything. Thinking about it, it should be because of that incident that Captain Li did not ask Li Xiqing to go home with him. In the end, Su Qianxi called the Su family and remembered that she was supposed to go home that day. Because of this incident, her status in the Su family plummeted. Because of this, her grandfather regretted marrying the wrong granddaughter. Because of this, her uncle and aunt oppressed her crazily. Her life was getting worse day by day. After driving for about 10 minutes, she was surprised to find that he did not go directly to the Su family, but slowly stopped on a busy street. Get out of the car. Li Xiqing was expressionless. Su Qianxi pursed her lips, a little disappointed with this result, but also expected. Even if it was his grandfather's order, he didn't really need to follow it, right? As long as he could deal with his grandfather, everything would be fine. Chapter 18. As soon as she touched the doorknob, the man next to her said again, "I'll give you 20 minutes to change." Su Qianxi was dazed and glanced down at herself. She was wearing her favorite outfit. It was not a famous brand, and the quality was only above average, but it was very suitable for her temperament. She did not want to throw it away when she moved, so she brought it with her luggage to the Li family. She did not expect that he would even notice such a detail. "Take it." Li Xiqing's expression was indifferent, and his voice was cold. He had already handed her a black card. Su Qianxi looked at the black card in his hand and was slightly dazed. He actually gave her money. Su Qianxi's heart trembled, and she looked up at his face incredulously. Li Xiqing's expression did not change at all, as if the 5 million black card he gave her was a trivial thing. However, it set off a storm in Su Qianxi's heart. She was not shocked by his generosity, but in her 2 lifetimes, it was the first time he had given her something. Seeing her dazed, Li Xiqing frowned unhappily. "Don't think that the Li family will not even buy you a set of clothes when you come to the Su family." Hearing this seemingly explanation, Su Qianxi subconsciously looked out of the car window and saw that it was the entrance of a mall. She immediately felt relieved. Sure enough, it could not be because of her. "Thank you." She took the card and got out of the car. Li Xiqing watched her walk into the mall, and there was a trace of thought in his dark eyes. It seemed that it was really different. Such an attitude did not seem to be fake. So, the Su Qianxi from a while ago was the one who pretended? Which side of her was her true self? Entering her favorite luxury store, Su Qianxi was stared at by all the salespeople as soon as she entered the door. Seeing the clothes Su Qianxi was wearing, the smiles on the salespeople's faces disappeared. Soon, they pouted with disdain and looked at Su Qianxi with disdain, as if she was a garbage collector entering a 5-star hotel. Su Qianxi felt a bit amused. Fortunately, Li Xiqing had reminded her to change. Otherwise, she would be laughed at by her aunt and cousins if she wore this to the Su family. However, he didn't care about the attitude of these salespeople. This was how the world was. People laughed at the poor but not at the prostitutes. Walking around, she was attracted by an exquisite dress in the center of the store. Just as she was about to reach out, a sharp female voice came from not far away. "Ah, don't touch it. That dress is very expensive." Su Qianxi turned her head and saw a salesgirl walking toward her, looking unhappy. "Do you know how much this dress costs? How dare you touch it? What if you break it?" Full of contempt, Su Qianxi asked, "You don't allow people to try on clothes? Those who can afford it can of course try it." The salesperson's face was full of disdain. She glanced at the cheap clothes she was wearing and said coldly, "I'm sorry, Mississippi. Please, I won't be seeing you off." Su Qianxi looked at the salespeople and felt a bit confused. She asked, "Is this how you treat your customers?" Chapter 19. Did that mean she could not afford it? Su Qianxi smiled, and was about to say something when she suddenly saw two people walking in side by side. What's going on? Did someone who could not afford it come here to force her to buy? The female voice was a bit sarcastic. It was a man and a woman. The man was tall and strong, and the woman was elegant and cool. When they walked in, the expression of the salesperson suddenly changed. She greeted them with a smile and said, "Miss Liu, you're here." Su Qianxi also looked over and was slightly surprised. If she remembered correctly, Liu Anan was the daughter of Mrs. Tang's younger brother, which meant she was Tang Minjing's cousin and her biggest rival in high school. Liu Anan's family used to be very poor. Later, when Mrs. Tang became successful, her family rose to fame and became a real nouveau riche. However, the man standing next to Liu Anan was her first love when she was young. His name was Fu Lingbing, the most handsome guy in school. Not only was he handsome, he was also from a very rich family. Seeing Fu Lingbing, Su Qianxi was a bit dazed. She did not expect that she could see her first love again. However, at this moment, she had no feelings for him at all. However, she remembered that Liu Anan later married a middle-aged rich businessman and had a son with tens of millions of yuan. She did not expect that the two of them had hooked up. Hearing the salesperson's words, Liu Anan responded condescendingly, as if she was very satisfied with her flattery. Then she looked at Su Qianxi and said in surprise, "Isn't this our campus belle, Su Qianxi? What a coincidence. You are also here to buy clothes?" The salesperson quickly smiled apologetically and said with a fawning expression, "So Miss Liu knows this person?" Liu Anan sneered. "Of course I know him. In high school, he went from a bad student to a famous university. He is very famous in our school. Am I right, Lingbing?" Fu Lingbing frowned and looked at Su Qianxi in front of him. She seemed to be different from what he remembered. Su Qianxi had a straight nose, thin eyebrows and big eyes. Her clean and soft black hair was draped over her shoulders. Her hairstyle was also very simple. Her long black hair was straight in the middle, which made her look even more delicate. Su Qianxi was the campus belle when she was in high school. At that time, she was a typical rebellious girl. Her clothes and hairstyle were all non-mainstream. Now that she had changed those styles, she was even more slim and graceful, making people unable to take their eyes off her. The salesperson heard Liu Anan's words and looked even more impatient. She waved at Su Qianxi and said, "Go. If you don't go, I will hire security." She sneered and took out her wallet from her bag. A black card quickly appeared in her hand. "Is this card enough?" Seeing this black card, the salesperson, who had wanted to make a few sarcastic remarks, immediately became silent. Grabbing the black card from Su Qianxi's hand, he took a closer look and exclaimed, "It's real." This black card had at least 5 million yuan in it. Su Qianxi saw her look of surprise and disbelief. She looked at the dress that she liked at first sight and said, "Let me try that dress." The salesperson was obviously unwilling, but she still turned around to retrieve the dress and handed it over with both hands. She took it and went into the fitting room. Chapter 20. The shop assistant had a look of understanding on her face and flattered. "So she's a mistress. No wonder. I was wondering how she could have this kind of card with her temperament and dressing." "Exactly. This woman has been a slut since she was in high school. Everyone said that she had an affair with the principal. Otherwise, how could she have been admitted to a prestigious university?" Liu Anan was very satisfied with her cooperation. The sound of the door opening came from the fitting room. Su Qianxi walked out of it and suddenly felt refreshed. Although Su Qianxi was beautiful, she looked like a little girl next door, young and energetic but ordinary. Now Su Qianxi had changed into a sleeveless dress from a famous brand. The pink color made her skin look white and delicate. Her temperament suddenly changed, and she was a metamorphosed socialite. Women were born beautiful, and Su Qianxi was no exception. Looking at herself in the mirror with satisfaction, she smiled. Those salespeople felt like their eyeballs were about to pop out. It was too suitable. This dress seemed to be tailor-made for her. Not only the size, but even the temperament was very suitable. It was the first time they had seen someone wear this dress so well. Even Fu Lingbing, who was used to seeing beauties, was stunned for a moment. Lu Anan saw his reaction and felt jealous. She sneered and said, "Clothes make a man. A pheasant can become a peacock with good clothes. However, a pheasant will always be a pheasant. No matter how much she dresses up, she will never become a phoenix." Su Qianxi suddenly frowned and looked at a salesperson, saying, "You really serve everyone here. Such a strong smell. Don't you think about driving her away?" Lu Anan's face darkened. She yelled, "You are the one who should leave." Su Qianxi ignored her, took her black card, and went to the cashier. Check. The salesperson was overjoyed. She did not expect to sell a dress so easily. She hurried to the cashier. But then she saw the small bag in Su Qianxi's hand. There was no logo on it, and it was so low-key that she almost did not recognize it. She exclaimed, "This is the new limited edition of Dior's runway show this year." At the same time, another salesperson also recognized it. Her pupils contracted. She said in a daze, "Is it the one that only has 10 in the world?" That surprised Lu Anan and Fu Lingbing as well. There were only 10 in the world, and Su Qianxi had one in her hand. What kind of identity was that? That was not something that could be done with money. The faces of those salespeople were very interesting. Who would have thought that she actually had such a huge black card, and such a hard-to-get bag, when she was dressed so shabbily? These facts that were placed in front of them were like slaps on their faces. The salesperson who had just ridiculed her blushed, and quietly walked over to help her swipe her card. Chapter 21. Su Qianxi glanced at her coldly, and immediately saw her jealous face. Curling her lips, she sneered, "Low quality, full of filth. I really don't want to admit that you were my classmate back then." Su Qianxi rolled her eyes with some arrogance and contempt. Su Qianxi was a bit smaller than Lu Anan, but at this moment, she gave Lu Anan an inexplicable sense of oppression. It had nothing to do with their height or looks. The difference in aura alone was enough to crush Lu Anan into the dust. Fu Lingbing couldn't help but look at Su Qianxi again. At this moment, Su Qianxi was elegant, and elegant. Compared to when she was in high school, she was a completely different person. In front of her, Lu Anan was like an ugly duckling, while Su Qianxi was a high and mighty swan. Such a huge difference made Lu Anan even angrier. Clenching her fists, she almost yelled, "I do not want to admit that someone who is willing to sleep with an old man, who is older than your father, is my high school classmate." Enough. Fu Lingbing stopped her in time. "You are going too far." Others might not know, but he was very clear that the Fu family was also a famous family. However, his sister had been eyeing that bag for more than half a year, and had finally sold it, but she had not gotten one. Su Qianxi could actually get one and hold it in her hand, which meant that the person behind her was definitely not simple. In addition, Su Qianxi's temperament was completely different from before. No matter who she was, Su Qianxi was not someone they could afford to offend. However, Lu Anan did not know what Fu Lingbing was trying to do. Throwing off his hand, she yelled, "Too far? Don't tell me your heart aches for her? Seeing that she has become so beautiful and awesome, are you planning to chase after her and be together with her?" Fu Lingbing felt extremely embarrassed. He had never been so embarrassed in his life. Annoyed, he said, "Are you done? Let's go. This is too embarrassing." Su Qianxi sneered, and decided to ignore her. Competing with this kind of person was simply degrading. Han Sun quickly swiped his card and signed. When he was ready to leave, Lu Anan shouted again, "UB*TCH. Back then, you slept with the principal in exchange for a recommendation. Today, you sleep with the old man to buy luxury goods. You really can't change your ways." More and more people came to watch, and all eyes were on her. However, Su Qianxi did not panic at all, only indifference and anger. "Lu Anan, do you know how many years you will be sentenced for defamation?" Seeing that Su Qianxi finally responded to her, Lu Anan screamed proudly, "Slander? Framing? Which one of my words is false? Back then, you were so poor that you had to borrow money for your school fees. How could you have the money to buy luxury goods? You're just a slacker. If you relied on your own abilities, how could you possibly graduate?" Hearing Lu Anan's words, everyone became curious. Such an explosive scene was something that only happened once in 100 years in this high-class shopping mall. Seeing more and more people gathered, Lu Ainan's voice became louder and louder. You were admitted to a prestigious university, but I failed the college entrance exam. Everyone knows that I got full marks in all my subjects. You must have tricked the principal and changed my grades. Su Qianxi was speechless. She was indeed a slacker. But later, under the coercion and temptation of the Su family, he worked hard and stayed up all night for more than a month in the third year of high school. In the end, he collapsed and fell ill after the college entrance examination. He still didn't meet the requirements of the Su family to get into the ideal major. So he had to settle for the second best, and chose the business management major of Kingstown University. Why did Lu Ainan say that she had gotten it through illegal means? More and more people were watching. Some of them had recorded the scene and posted it on Weibo. Su Qianxi was not nervous at all. Looking at Lu Ainan, she said frankly, "Where is the evidence? Since you are so sure, show me the evidence. I would like to see how I tricked the principal without telling myself." Evidence? Do I need evidence? Lu Ainan sneered. The fact that a slacker like you could get into a prestigious university is the best evidence. Oh really? Chapter 22. Oh, is that so? A man's voice passed through the layers of sound waves, like a bass cello, deep and magnetic, followed closely by the steady sound of leather shoes. A tall figure came with his back to the light. He was tall and straight, imposing and cold. His eyes glanced at Lu Ainan, and immediately fell on Su Qianxi. Seeing her new outfit, there was a glimmer of light in his eyes, but it was gone in a flash. President Li. Hello, President Li. The salespeople were originally watching the commotion, but when they saw the tall and straight figure, they all stood up one after another, and their eyes clearly lit up. There was admiration, passion, and desire in their eyes. This was a godlike man. As the youngest eligible bachelor in Kingstown, Li Xiqing had always kept a low profile. He didn't expect that this busy man would personally come to the small shopping mall under his name. It really made everyone feel flattered. The sarcasm on Lu Ainan's face suddenly disappeared, and her eyes were full of love. President Li. President Li. Fu Lingbing looked at Li Xiqing, who was wearing casual clothes today, with admiration in his eyes. The passion in his eyes was obvious. Yes. Li Xiqing responded quietly and looked at his watch. His lips moved and his face was cold. 20 minutes have passed. When he spoke, he was facing Su Qianxi. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. The president, who was usually so cold, was talking to this woman. Lu Ainan was dazed and unwilling. She walked up to Li Xiqing and said, "President Li, do you know this woman?" Li Xiqing glanced at her coldly. "This woman's character is very bad. I advise you to stay away from her. This kind of woman knew how to use her body to exchange for education in high school. Now she's even worse. I don't know who's keeping her. CEO Li, you and my cousin are childhood friends. I don't want you to be cheated by her." Seeing Lu Ainan warning Li Xiqing so seriously, Su Qianxi suddenly felt it was ridiculous. If she knew that the woman she was talking about was Li Xiqing's wife, how would she react? It must be very exciting. Thinking of Lu Ainan's expression, Su Qianxi curled her lips, which made Lu Ainan even angrier. "Su Qianxi, how dare you smile? You're the one who's embarrassed now. Why don't I have the face to smile?" Su Qianxi even more presumptuously raised her eyebrows and chuckled. Her little face, without any makeup, actually had an indescribable temptation. Li Xiqing suddenly felt his throat tighten, thinking of this morning when she stubbornly stared at him naked. His mouth felt dry. "Hey, you've lost all your face, haven't you? The one who's been exposed in public is you, not me." "Oh really?" She seemed to be in a good mood. "Then take it that way." Lu Ainan was pissed off. His nonchalance made her even angrier. "You." Lu Ainan wanted to say something but was interrupted. "Tang Minjing is your cousin." Li Xiqing's voice was low and magnetic, with an indescribable charm. All the women who heard it felt their hearts beat faster. Hearing him talking to her, Lu Ainan was overjoyed. Chapter 23. Lu Ainan blushed and quickly nodded. "Yes, brother Li, we met at your birthday party last year. I was wearing." She changed the way she addressed Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing's eyes flashed with impatience as he said, "Didn't she tell you that I'm married?" Li Xiqing's eyes flashed with impatience. Lu Anan was dazed and nodded. It was no secret that Li Xiqing was married. However, the wedding was very low-key. The media did not even know who his partner was. Why did he suddenly mention it? Lu Anan could not understand this man. However, such a mysterious man was the most attractive to women. Lu Anan was even more excited. Lu Anan stared at him without any hesitation. This kind of gaze was so blatant that it was disgusting. Li Xiqing was already numb to this kind of look. However, he suddenly remembered that a few days ago, Su Qianxi had looked at him the same way. Only today, he finally knew what was different about her. Playing hard to get. Gazing at Su Qianxi, Li Xiqing quickly looked away. "So, I do not think it is a wise choice to slander my wife in front of me." His expression was calm, as if he was narrating something that couldn't be more normal. However, his words stirred up a storm in everyone's hearts. Among them, Lu Anan was the most shocked. She exclaimed out of reflex, "How is it possible? She is your wife." Fu Lingbing was also shocked, looking at Su Qianxi incredulously. What was the Li family? The top family in Kingstown. Among the three brothers of the Li family, only Li Xiqing was in business. But which of the people who came from the Li clan was not a dragon or phoenix among men? Fu Lingbing knew how high the threshold was for such a family. Could Su Qianxi marry into the Li family? Not only Lu Anan, even Fu Lingbing could not believe it. However, Li Xiqing had admitted it himself. What? She is the president's wife? One of the salespeople could not believe it, leaning against the cabinet. The woman who was dressed so simply was the wife of the big boss of the mall. "It's Mrs. Li." One of the onlookers suddenly sighed. "I knew it. That aura was extraordinary. She even sold her body to sleep with him? Ha, a woman's jealousy is really scary." "That's right. He's so aggressive. I thought it was real. TSK. There are all kinds of birds in a big forest. But Mrs. Li is so beautiful. She and President Li are a match made in heaven." "That's right. But is the man beside that woman the son of Fu's enterprise?" "Hey, it's true. Could that woman be his girlfriend? It can't be, right? His eyesight is that bad." The discussion was getting louder and louder. Fu Lingbing's face was already red, so he quietly stayed away from Lu Anan. Chapter 24. What's going on? I heard someone is making trouble here. A few men in uniform walked in. Su Qianxi glanced at them coldly, curled her lips and said, "Yes, police. Someone is maliciously slandering me." Maliciously slandering? They braved such hot weather to come here just for such a small matter? However, when she saw Li Xiqing, her impatient expression suddenly changed. She called, "Mr. Li." Seeing the police, Lu Anan was dazed and immediately panicked. "Su Qianxi, you know very well whether I am slandering you or not. Which part of what I said was not true? You shameless woman. How dare you call the police?" "Well, go and tell the police." Su Qianxi's voice was gentle, and her face was calm. However, in her dark eyes, there was a hint of coldness. At that moment, her aura was so strong that it was eye-catching. "I don't have time to waste with you anymore. How dare you call the police? I am a relative of the Tang family. Brotherly, isn't my cousin your childhood sweetheart? How could you send her cousin to the police station?" Lu Anan looked at Li Xiqing as if he was her last straw, hoping that he would stop Su Qianxi. After all, Tang Minjing had grown up with him. Everyone said that he and Tang Minjing were a match made in heaven. A handsome man and a beautiful woman, childhood sweethearts. The Tang family and the Lu family all thought that Li Xiqing would marry Tang Minjing. Now, even if they were not husband and wife, they would at least care about their relationship, right? However, she clearly underestimated how heartless Li Xiqing could be. That tall and straight figure, that seemed to be surrounded by thousands of rays of light, didn't seem to hear her at all. He looked up at his watch and urged, 1:00. She had said so much, but there was no response. Lu Anan was not willing to give up and continued, "Brotherly, even if you do not respect my cousin, at least respect the Tang family. I am a cousin of the Tang family after all." Su Qianxi felt a bit sympathetic. This sentence really touched Li Xiqing's sore spot. Are you threatening me? Li Xiqing looked up and stared at Lu Anan with his eagle-like eyes. Lu Anan felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on her. She panicked and said, "No, Did Director Sun pay you to watch the show?" Li Xiqing's voice was so cold that people couldn't help shivering. The policemen immediately took out their handcuffs and arrested Lu Anan. "What's your relationship with the suspect?" A police officer looked at Fu Lingbing. "No, we're fine." Fu Lingbing had lost all his face today with such a big-breasted but brainless girlfriend. In addition, Lu Anan had not only offended Su Qianxi, but also the man behind her. He couldn't afford to provoke such an existence, even if his entire Fu family were to be sacrificed. The only thing he could do now was to distance himself from Lu Anan, the idiot. However, Lu Anan sneered and screamed, "He is my boyfriend. He was the one who told me everything I just said. Do you want to wash your hands clean?" No way. They were in the same boat. If they were to die, they would die together. Chapter 25. Too much. Who is the one who is too much? Fu Lingbing, you coward. He did not, Su Qianxi said. You asked for it, and you still have to find a scapegoat. Lu Anan, you are such a bad person. Fu Lingbing was dazed, not expecting Su Qianxi to speak up for him. He felt grateful, but at the same time, he was proud of his charm. It turned out that Su Qianxi still liked him. That was right. First love was not something that could be easily forgotten. Feeling happy, Fu Lingbing looked at Su Qianxi in a different way. A policeman took a pen and wrote something down. He looked up and said, "I'll have to trouble you to come with us and take a statement." Fu Lingbing nodded. It was good that he was not an accomplice. Get the surveillance video as evidence. As for the witness, you can handle it, right? Su Qianxi looked at the salesperson. No problem, absolutely no problem. Mrs. Li, rest assured. We can all testify for you. This woman is slandering you. Seeing the change of events, Lu Anan screamed like crazy. Su Qianxi, my cousin will not let you go for what you did to me today. The Tang family will not let you go either. Okay. Su Qianxi's eyes darkened and she stood straight. Then I will wait and see. It was just Lu Anan. Sending her to the police station was not only for revenge, but also to slap Tang Minjing in the face. She was just Tang Minjing's cousin. Su Qianxi had not only messed with her, but also made it worse. What happened today was her formal declaration of war against Tang Minjing. Offending Li Xiqing, Lu Anan's life was over. Lu Anan was soon taken away, and the crowd dispersed. Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi walked out of the mall one after the other, speechless. Wait, Su Qianxi. It was Fu Lingbing's voice. Su Qianxi turned her head and saw Fu Lingbing running up to her. Seeing her pretty face, he smiled brightly. Su Qianxi, it's been a long time. I didn't expect you to be married. Su Qianxi's eyes lit up. I did not expect you to be with Lu Anan, Han Sun said sarcastically. Fu Lingbing's face was a little awkward, but he didn't say much and went straight to the point. There will be a high school reunion on the 8th of next month. You should come too. I couldn't find you before, but I've made up for it now. High school reunion? Su Qianxi remembered that in her previous lifetime, she had also participated. The venue was in a 6-star hotel, but she was dragged there by her so-called good friend. After she went there, she was targeted by Lu Anan. She was short-tempered. Under the conspiracy of Lu Anan and Tang Minjing, it was said that she had sold her body to get a degree, that she was a sugar daddy, and that she had done plastic surgery to get a higher position. Chapter 26. However, he did not say a word. It was as if he was facing a complete stranger. Indifferent and cold. No one knew that she was the wife of the Li family, and no one believed that she had been slandered. After that party, the black hat had followed her for the rest of her life, and her reputation had been ruined for the rest of her life. Because of that, she hated Tang Minjing, but she had never hated Li Xiqing. Thinking about it now, she realized that this man was extremely heartless. Thinking of this, the lingering affection she had for him disappeared without a trace. Such a man was not someone she could control. Instead of falling for him like a fool, She might as well get away. However, she did not expect that Fu Lingbing, the host of the reunion, would invite her in person. Looking at her indifferent expression, Fu Lingbing could not understand her. He asked carefully, Su Qianxi? She looked up and curled her lips. Okay, I will be there. Fu Lingbing was overjoyed. That's settled then. I'll contact you when the time comes. As he spoke, he did not forget to look at the tall figure standing beside her. Su Qianxi was nothing. The man next to her was the one Fu Lingbing wanted. Mr. Li, if you have time, would you like to join us? Fu Lingbing couldn't help feeling nervous. Li Xiqing had a strange temper, and he was afraid that he would refuse. The man looked indifferent and responded, okay. Fu Lingbing let out a sigh of relief, and was overjoyed. There was no refusal, which meant there was hope. He had to climb up this tree. Back in the car, Li Xiqing took out a cigarette from the drawer, lit it up and slowly smoked. White smoke came out of her red lips, adding a layer of mystery to Li Xiqing's already handsome face. His movements were as elegant as a character in a painting. However, Su Qianxi knew that he was thinking about something. Li Xiqing did not smoke easily, but whenever he encountered something he could not understand, he would light a cigarette and slowly sort it out. However, what was he thinking about? Su Qianxi had a feeling that maybe it had something to do with her. However, on second thought, she felt that she was overthinking. With a self-deprecating smile, she looked up and found that Li Xiqing was looking at her. His eyes were indescribably deep. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. Feeling a bit scared, she asked uncertainly, "What's wrong?" Li Xiqing did not speak, but put the cigarette in his hand and slowly leaned toward Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi felt even more nervous and subconsciously shrank back. Staring at her face, he did not speak, but his eyes slowly moved from her eyes to her lips. Buzz! Her mind seemed to be bombarded by something, and her face suddenly blushed. She couldn't help thinking of a sentence. When a man looked at a woman's lips, there was only one purpose, and that was to kiss her. Chapter 27. Why? A magnetic voice rang in her ear. If the voice could make her ears pregnant, she felt she needed an abortion right now. But, why? Su Qianxi looked up and saw his cold and stunning face. You are not smiling. Should she be smiling? Su Qianxi was confused, but before she could figure it out, he had already straightened up and looked down at the cigarette between his fingers. The ash was already very long. Flicking it slightly, Li Xiqing took another puff, his expression unreadable. Exhaling the white smoke, Su Qianxi felt even more confused. This man, why was he always so mysterious? Suddenly, Su Qianxi thought of her previous life. When she first married him, she felt that she was the luckiest woman in the world. There was no woman in Kingstown who did not fall for him, and she could be so close to him and become his wife. Because of this mentality, whenever she approached him, her lips would unconsciously curl up. A happy smile, a joyful smile, and a loving smile. However, now she no longer loved him, so naturally she could not smile. Her heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly realized that since she was reborn, she seemed to have not disguised herself at all. It took her 5 years to go from being willful and naive to being mature. In those 5 years, she had suffered a lot and fallen into many traps before she settled down. Now, she had become like this overnight, which was indeed suspicious. When Su Qianxi was thinking about how to explain, he had started the car and slowly headed for the Su family. The Su family had been waiting for a long time. Sitting on the sofa, Su Shana was very impatient, covering her growling stomach. She pouted at the middle-aged man opposite her and said, "Dad, Su Qianxi, that loser, should not be coming. With her personality, if she wanted to come, she would have come long ago. She can't wait that long. Shall we eat first?" Su Zhenghua looked at the time. It was already 1:30 in the afternoon, long past dinner time. His gloomy face seemed to be covered with a layer of haze. He said to his wife, "Call and ask." Mrs. Su nodded, and was about to dial when the doorbell rang. Susanna immediately went to open the door, and saw the tall man standing at the door. Her eyes lit up and she smiled sweetly. "Mr. Li, you're finally here." This was not the first time she had seen this man. but she was amazed every time she saw him. This man was like the bright moon in the sky, cold and noble, untouchable. There wasn't a single woman in Kingstown who didn't fall for him. But cousin. Su Qianxi's figure came from Li Xiqing's side. The smile on Susanna's face froze, and she felt jealous. However, no matter how much she hated Su Qianxi, Susanna knew what to do. She avoided her and let her in. Uncle Aunt. Su Qianxi entered the door and greeted him. Her actions were graceful, and her smile was sweet and appropriate. Her every move was extremely dignified. Standing next to Li Xiqing, she looked indescribably harmonious and beautiful. Chapter 28. Sure enough, even AB*TCH would be different when she found someone powerful. However, why did she, the legitimate daughter of the Su family, have to marry this illegitimate daughter? It was so unfair. Su Zhenghua acted as if he did not hear her greeting him. He stood up and walked over to Li Xiqing with a bright smile. Xiqing, you are here. Come, have a seat. Have you eaten? No. That's great. We happen to be a bit late today. Let's eat together. Su Zhenghua smiled, trying to please Li Xiqing. Okay. Li Xiqing was a man of few words, so he just responded. However, Su Zhenghua's face was a little awkward, and he forced a smile. At that time, Susanna came over with a small tray. She smiled shyly and said, Mr. Li, have some coffee. Mrs. Su also smiled and said, knowing that you like coffee, Nana went to learn how to make it. Can you help her see if she can make it? Susanna looked at him expectantly, and Su Zhenghua and his wife also smiled at Li Xiqing. However, Li Xiqing's eyes fell on the tall figure on the side. Why are you standing there? Come and sit down. As Li Xiqing said that, the Su family noticed that Su Qianxi was still standing on the side without anyone greeting her. Su Zhenghua looked embarrassed and coughed. Su Qianxi, you are in your own home. Why are you acting so strange? If I didn't know better, I would think that you are the guest. You are Mrs. Li now. How can you not know the rules? Come and sit down. Mrs. Su also looked annoyed. She had already expected this. For the Su family, she would always be dust, and Li Xiqing was the honorable one. Without Li Xiqing, she would be nothing. She walked over slowly and sat down next to Li Xiqing. However, she deliberately found a seat far away from him, at least 1 meter away. Based on what she knew about Susanna, she would not miss this opportunity. Sure enough, Susanna saw the empty seat between them and had an indescribable look in her eyes. Susanna picked up the coffee on the table and walked toward him, saying, Mr. Li, try the coffee I made. I've been learning to make it for a while. Can you tell me if it's good enough? As he spoke, he had already sat down in the middle of them. Li Xiqing frowned, as if he had touched a virus. He stood up abruptly the moment she sat down. Su Zhenghua was startled by his sudden movement and stared blankly at him. Bathroom? I'll take you there, Susanna said immediately, and was about to stand up. However, he was immediately stopped by Su Zhenghua. Unruly, Su Zhenghua looked at Su Qianxi and said meaningfully, you go. She did not intend to get up. Pointing, she said, go straight and turn right. He strode away and soon disappeared around the corner. Once the big shots left, the small shots could no longer hold themselves back. How have you been at the Li family these days? Today is Mrs. Li's birthday. Did you give her the present I prepared? Mrs. Su asked. Yes. Chapter 29. No. Su Qianxi did not give them any hope. He doesn't want to touch me. Hearing that, Mrs. Su was a bit anxious. He doesn't want to touch you. Can't you do something? What can I do? Do you think I can force myself on him? Well, Mrs. Su was also a bit helpless. Anyway, don't embarrass our family. Why do you think Captain Li wants you to marry him? It's because your mother saved his life when she was young. Otherwise, do you think you could be where you are today? In the end, we're the ones who pulled you back from the slums. That's why you're able to rise to the top. Now that you're successful, don't forget to take care of us. At least, find your cousin a relative of the Li family. I heard that Mr. Li has a younger brother who is unmarried. Find a way to get his itinerary. Even if there is no itinerary, the basic information is fine. Ask your cousin to visit the Lee family often. Maybe she can meet him. I'm talking to you. Do you hear me? Mrs. Su said a lot, and Su Qianxi nodded, looking indifferent. Seeing her like that, Susanna snorted angrily and said, Dad, you should tell Captain Lee that I am my aunt's daughter. If I marry him, I will not be afraid of being embarrassed. Oh, it seems that you really want to marry him. How about I divorce him and you live with him? Su Qianxi looked indifferent, unable to tell if she was serious or not. By the way, do a DNA test and tell them that you are Su Han's daughter, and I was just picked up. Isn't that better? Susanna's eyes lit up at his half-joking words. Even Mrs. Su looked a bit touched. Seeing this, Su Qianxi sneered inwardly. In her previous lifetime, they had done this to her. They would fake a DNA test and send it to the Lee family to tell the world that she was actually picked up, and that Su Han's daughter was actually Susanna. Because they could not have children, they adopted their sister's daughter. The purpose was to let Susanna marry into the Lee family and Lee Siqing. At that time, this matter was very sensational, and people around heard that the daughter-in-law of the Lee family was of unknown origin. However, the Lee family could not afford to lose face. They created a fake identity for Su Qianxi and let her go. Captain Lee did not intend to divorce Su Qianxi at all. Su Zhengguo's family's wishful thinking fell through, and because of this, the Su family sought death. Under the revenge of the Lee family, the Su family quickly went bankrupt. Now that this matter was brought up, there was more or less a hint of mockery. He didn't expect that this family would really have this idea after he mentioned it. Are you willing to divorce him? Susanna found it hard to believe. How is that possible? Haven't you been bragging about your marriage with Lee Siqing? When did I show off? She asked. Susanna choked and was speechless. Yes, Su Qianxi did not show off. Her silence was enough to make everyone crazy jealous. He and I will not be together for too long. Divorce is only a matter of time. Her tone was calm, as if she was talking about something trivial. Hearing her words, Su Zhengguo frowned, seeming to be wondering if she was telling the truth. Chapter 30. Isn't that what you want? Su Qianxi clearly noticed the change in Mrs. Su's expression. She had guessed something, but pretended not to know. Curling her lips, she said sarcastically, I will divorce Lee Siqing, marry my cousin to him, and lie that she is my mother's biological daughter. I will use my mother to save Grandpa's life to break into the Lee family and take the Lee family's property. Such a plan is perfect, isn't it? The more Su Zhengguo listened, the more he felt it was feasible. However, he vaguely felt something was wrong. Turning around, he saw his wife winking at him. Su Zhengguo had a bad feeling. Looking up, his expression changed dramatically. He slammed the table and said, What are you talking about? How can you do such a thing? As he shouted, Su Zhengguo's face had become pale, staring behind Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi turned her head and seemed to be scared. She quickly turned her head back, as if she had done something wrong. However, her heart was as clear as a mirror. She had already known that Lee Siqing was behind her. She had said those words on purpose. Wasn't that what they wanted to do? She was just saying it in advance. After all, Su Qianxi had saved their family. After all, they had ended up bankrupt and ended up living on the streets, pitiful. However, Su Zhengguo's family did not know that they hated Su Qianxi to the core. Su Zhengguo complained inwardly. When he was about to explain, a maid came up and said, Sir, madam, the food is ready. It's ready to be served. Hearing that, Su Zhengguo quickly said, Finally, let's eat. Let's go eat. Eat. Was he sure he could still eat? Su Qianxi suddenly felt like laughing. Her uncle was really hypocritical, extremely hypocritical. However, Lee Siqing clearly saw the gloat in her eyes. He immediately understood something, but he did not say it. Looking indifferent, he walked to the table under Su Zhengguo's invitation. During the meal, except for Su Qianxi and Lee Siqing, the rest of the people ate nervously. Su Zhengguo greeted them, but his heart was also in his throat. He had no idea how much Lee Siqing had heard. If he had only heard what Su Qianxi said, he could still say that it was her side of the story. But if he heard what the family said, then The matter could be big or small. Su Zhengguo's heart was perturbed. The meal felt like a century. After more than half an hour, he finally put down his chopsticks. Su Zhengguo heaved a sigh of relief and quickly put down his chopsticks, ready to send the guest off at any time. However, a certain someone was not very cooperative. Su Qianxi slowly held her chopsticks and picked up some food on the table. Her leisurely manner was incompatible with the current atmosphere. Su Zhengguo cursed his niece to death in his heart. Didn't she know that because of her words just now, the whole family was unhappy? However, they did not know that what Su Qianxi wanted was to make them unhappy. Susanna couldn't stand it anymore and urged, "Are you done? Mr. Li has already finished. You're such a drag." Su Qianxi glanced at her and said in a low voice, "But I'm not full yet." Chapter 31. Nana. Mrs. Su immediately stopped her. Susanna was not convinced, but when she saw Li Xiqing, she swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. When Su Qianxi finished eating, it was more than 10 minutes later. After eating, they sat down again. The Su family chatted with each other, but Su Qianxi did not say a word about leaving. In the end, it was Li Xiqing who proposed to leave first. The Su family felt like they had been pardoned. They pretended to ask him to stay and politely sent him away. When she left, Su Qianxi could feel the murderous eyes of the Su family behind her, but she felt indescribably good. When she walked out of the house, she stopped and said, "Mr. Li." Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow and looked at her. "I still have something to do. You go back first. I will take a taxi later." "Okay," Li Xiqing responded and walked away. Su Qianxi saw him disappear around the corner and walked to the only pharmacy near the Su family's house. Entering the pharmacy, she bought an emergency contraceptive pill and took it before she left. The clerk threw away the paper cup she had used. When she looked up, there were a few $100 bills in front of her. She was taken aback for a moment before she raised her head and saw a handsome and flawless face. What pill did the girl take? The clerk was dazed. Looking at the bills, she immediately realized and looked at the box that had not been thrown away. Li Xiqing saw the words on the box, and his eyes became darker. His thin red lips were pressed into a line. Turning around, he was silent. The shop assistant stared at his back in a daze, then silently put away the bills on the table. She did not say anything. When Su Qianxi got home, Li Xiqing was not back yet. Walking in, she saw Tang Minjing playing cards with Mrs. Li. Lost? Mrs. Li was obviously very lucky. She pushed the cards down and smiled very happily. "I'm done. Shuhua always wins. I've lost so much today." Mrs. Wang was a bit upset. Qin Shuhua was Mrs. Li's name. Hearing Mrs. Wang's resentful words, Qin Shuhua smiled happily. "Don't be like that. Let's play a little more." "I don't want to play anymore. Unless you want someone else. Here, your daughter-in-law is back." This successfully diverted the attention back to Su Qianxi. She stopped and walked over, greeting them one by one. "Mom, Auntie Li, Auntie Wang. You came back just in time. Help your mother-in-law play a few rounds." "I don't think so. I don't know how," she said. When Mrs. Wang heard this, she was elated. "That's good. Let your mother-in-law teach you. Come and sit down. Let your daughter-in-law do the calligraphy." Qin Shuhua had indeed won too much that day. Being asked to do so, she was too embarrassed to continue. She stood up and said, "You do it." Su Qianxi had to sit down, and Qin Shuhua took a chair and sat down, watching her play. Su Qianxi said she wouldn't, and that meant it. Chapter 32. When Su Qianxi said she would not, she really would not. In her previous lifetime, she had been married to the Li family for 5 years, but Mrs. Li had never liked her, let alone asked her to play mahjong with her. This was the first time she had been asked to play mahjong. After a few rounds, Su Qianxi lost miserably. Qin Shuhua could not watch it anymore. She got up and said she was tired. She went back to her room and asked Tang Minjing to teach her. Tang Minjing replaced Qin Shuhua to help Su Qianxi, which made Su Qianxi feel uncomfortable. Sure enough, under Tang Minjing's guidance, in less than 2 rounds, Qin Shuhua lost all the money she had won today. Feeling guilty, Su Qianxi took out her own money to top it up. Mrs. Wang was very happy, but she suddenly felt something strange in her stomach. Ouch, my stomach hurts. Tang Minjing, come and help me. I need to go to the bathroom. After Tang Minjing sat down, she lost 2 rounds in a row. Why is Tang Minjing's luck so good? She won all the big cards. Fortunately, they were all Su Qianxi's cards. Su Qianxi lost a lot, right? I saw you just took money out of your pocket. Su Qianxi felt embarrassed. When she was thinking about whether she should tell them to stop playing, she heard Tang Minjing say, "It's okay. The Li family is rich and can afford to lose. Right, Su Qianxi?" It seemed to be an unintentional sentence, but it put Su Qianxi in a dilemma. She was now the daughter-in-law of the Li family, representing the face of the Li family. The Li family could lose money, but not face. If she said that she would stop playing at this time, wouldn't it mean that the Li family could not afford to lose? Su Qianxi felt a bit embarrassed, but she was too embarrassed to say that. She had to bite the bullet and say, "It's okay. That's good. That's good." The other women wanted her to say that. Let's continue. After losing so much money, Su Qianxi had almost figured out the basic rules. However, after reshuffling the cards, she still did not know what to do. When Su Qianxi was hesitating which card to play, she heard a deep, magnetic voice behind her. Lost. Su Qianxi was dazed, looked down at the cards and put them down. She could not understand any of them, only feeling confused. Lost. Where is it burnt? At this moment, a slender and fair hand suddenly stretched out from behind. This hand was fair and strong, with distinct knuckles, slender and neat. Chapter 33. Her breathing seemed to slow down at that moment, and her face was blushing. Long, slender fingers that were as fair as jade quickly rearranged the tiles in front of her. A melodious voice traveled into her ears. "Touch yourself 13 once." Li Xiqing pushed the cards over, and everyone looked over. Mrs. Li looked surprised. "I was wondering why Su Qianxi was so unlucky. It turns out that she was waiting for a big move. Wow, it's so different when the husband is here. He won as soon as he came," another lady said. Husband? The familiar and distant address made Su Qianxi dazed for a moment. But soon, she stared at the cards in front of her. "Did I win?" "Yes." Li Xiqing responded quietly, and saw Su Qianxi's surprised profile. Unlike Tang Minjing, Su Qianxi's face was very soft, and her skin was as smooth as porcelain. A pair of dark and bright eyes were embedded in them, sparkling with a smile. So cute. Seeing Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi's posture, Tang Minjing was crazy with jealousy. "Brother Xiqing, you are back." Tang Minjing smiled like a flower, bright and beautiful. However, Li Xiqing did not seem to hear it. He bent down slightly, picked up a mahjong tile, and whispered, 13-1 is the hardest to draw. You are very lucky." Su Qianxi was even more surprised. "Really? I am very lucky." However, she quickly thought of the money in the drawer that she had lost. "But I have lost all of it." "How much did you lose?" Su Qianxi blushed and whispered, "Tens of thousands." All the money in her mother-in-law's drawer added up to nearly 80,000 yuan. And the cash she had taken out of her purse. Well, tens of thousands was a conservative estimate. Li Xiqing just said quietly, "Win it back." If Li Xiqing said he would win it back, then he could really win it back. Shuffling again and picking up the cards, Su Qianxi found that it was not her bad luck, but that she did not know how to play. Looking at his hands arranging the cards in front of her, his long fingers were like a beautiful painting, which made her heart skip a beat. His hot breath was right next to her ear. So close, so hot, Su Qianxi blushed to the tips of her ears. She felt that her breathing had slowed down, and she was very regretful. Didn't he say that she could not have any thoughts about him? Su Qianxi, be a good girl. Pinching herself on her thigh, she immediately calmed down. What she did not know was that Li Xiqing had seen all of her little moves. His dark eyes seemed to be covered with a thin layer of mist, unreadable and unfathomable. After he finished, Su Qianxi found that the cards in front of her were very smooth. Dongfeng. Tang put down a tile, and kept her eyes on Li Xiqing. According to Tang Minjing's understanding of him over the years, Li Xiqing's mind was not entirely on the gambling table. He was thinking about something. Su Qianxi. Thinking to herself, Tang Minjing found that she had no clue. Her next opponent was Mrs. Li. When Mrs. Li was about to draw, Su Qianxi's weak voice came. Wait! Mrs. Li paused and looked at her. Su Qianxi pushed the cards in front of her and said, I seem to have lost. It was Tang Minjing's money that she had won. Wow, that's impressive. You are a fast learner. 3 yuan. That's a big win. Chapter 34. She reluctantly paid. But for the next few rounds, Su Qianxi seemed to have a cheat code and kept eating burnt meat. Most importantly, it was all Tang Minjing's money. Let's stop playing. Su Qianxi's husband has been winning since he came. Do you still want to give us a chance? Said one of the ladies. Another lady echoed, That's right. Let's go find some calligraphy and painting to gossip. The game was soon over. Su Qianxi sorted out her cards and found that she had won more than half of the rounds. She let out a sigh of relief. At least, she did not lose too badly. After packing up, he turned around and was caught off guard by a pair of pitch-black night sky. Suddenly they looked at each other. Su Qianxi had never seen such a pair of eyes. They were as dark as ink, but so bright that they seemed to be glowing. The sky was already dark, and the lights in the room shone on his tall and straight body, as if covering him with a layer of soft and bright holy light. Stunning. No matter how many times she looked at him, it was hard for her to look away from his face and eyes. However, at this moment, she suddenly remembered the last words her mother had left her before she died. Su Qianxi and dogs are not allowed in. Her heart trembled at this moment. Su Qianxi looked away in a hurry, turned around and said quickly, I'll take it to Mom. As he spoke he walked away. Li Xiqing looked at her back as she ran away. There was a dim light in his eyes that could not be seen or understood. Mrs. Li never liked to have a big party on her birthday. It was just a gathering with a few friends to play cards and chat. After accompanying Mrs. Li to see off a few rich ladies, Su Qianxi felt she was about to pass out. When she returned to the room, she immediately went to the bathroom. Without the cover of clothes, the mottled marks on her neck and collarbone were crazily squeezed into her mind along with the memory of last night. There seemed to be a slight pain in her lower body. Su Qianxi stood under the shower head, trying to wash off the marks on her neck. However, even when she had rubbed her skin, the marks did not fade. In her previous lifetime, these marks were taken as conclusive evidence that she had drugged Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing treated her like a virus and slept in the guest room of the old house, unwilling to share a room with her. The next day, they hurriedly returned to their villa and began their separate life. And it was all part of Tang Minjing's plan. She had been fooled by Su Qianxi without realizing it. She had even accepted her help, trying to please Li Xiqing and win back his heart. However, she did not know that every time Tang Minjing gave her a plan, she was stepping on Li Xiqing's bottom line. It was like a snowball. As time went by, Li Xiqing's misunderstanding of her deepened. When she knew the truth, things had already reached the point of no return. Taking a deep breath, she dried herself, but found that she seemed to have forgotten to bring her clothes. Scolding herself for being muddle-headed, she reached out to grab some old clothes to cover her body, opened the door and walked out. Although Li Xiqing was not there, she felt awkward without anything to cover her body. But just as she opened the bathroom door, she heard a faint sound. She paused and immediately became vigilant. Someone was there. Chapter 35. There was nothing on her body. Clothes. Clothes. She gave up. She quickly covered her chest with both hands. But then she thought of what was down there, and quickly covered her lower body with one hand. She was ashamed and angry at the same time. Feeling that his eyes were getting hotter and hotter, she let out a cry and knelt down, facing him with her back facing him. What are you hiding from? Li Xiqing's voice was low and husky. I've seen what I wanted to see. This made Su Qianxi even more ashamed and resentful. You were so aggressive last night, and now you're playing hard to get, huh? She grabbed her arms, her hands almost sinking into her flesh. I didn't. You didn't. Li Xiqing obviously did not believe her. That tone, that look. He was still so arrogant and inviolable. He was like a god in the sky, ruling and watching everything. However, he was only so harsh and contemptuous towards her. She suddenly looked up, her eyes red. You peeped on me taking a shower first. Mr. Li, don't you think what you're doing is very shameless? Peeped? Li Xiqing stepped in and grabbed her arm. His eyes were full of contempt. You invited me here, because you wanted me to sleep with you. Stop pretending. I didn't, she didn't. She really didn't. But how could Li Xiqing believe her? He lifted her up and carried her in his arms. She yelped. Before she could react, she was thrown onto the only king-sized bed in the room. Lying on top of her, he curled his lips. Do you remember what I said this morning? This morning? Do you know what a legal wife is? A legitimate tool to satisfy his lust. A tool to satisfy his lust. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. She felt wronged. Struggling with her hands and feet, she yelled, Don't touch me, Li Xiqing. You will only make me feel disgusted if you keep pretending. His sarcastic words were like a steel knife stabbing into her heart. She could no longer hold back her tears, and they flowed down her cheeks. She struggled even harder. Suddenly looking up, Su Qianxi burst into laughter. With madness, but her voice was low and horribly sarcastic. Then don't you think it's beneath you to sleep with a disgusting woman like me? Li Xiqing paused and narrowed his eyes. A woman like me doesn't deserve to be pregnant with the Li family's child, right? This was what he had said with his own mouth. Unexpectedly, he sneered in a low voice and pressed her legs down. His thigh was between her legs. The morning after pill lasts for 48 hours. Within these 48 hours, no matter how many times I come, I won't make you pregnant. Do you want to try? Her eyes widened. How did he know she had taken birth control pills? He moved closer until their noses were less than half a centimeter apart. Her eyelashes fluttered, and there was unspeakable shock in her eyes. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened as he whispered, You started the fire, so you are responsible for putting it out. Su Qianxi wanted to say something, but before she opened her mouth, the words were extinguished in her mouth. His movements were wild and crazy, and he forcefully plundered without the slightest bit of pity. He was kissing her. Chapter 36. Su Qianxi shivered, feeling as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water on her. Obviously, the man on top of her was so hot that her body was almost burning, but her heart was so cold. Tears ran down her cheeks, and she felt that she could hardly breathe. Closing her eyes, her hands and feet were still struggling, trying to struggle. Buzz! The phone on the nightstand vibrated. Li Xiqing paused, let go of her, and looked at her. Su Qianxi did not know when she had burst into tears. The salty tears in her mouth made him feel a little less satisfied. His originally cold and gloomy black eyes were now covered with a layer of mist. She really did not want to. The phone was still ringing, and Li Xiqing felt a little annoyed. She pulled away and left. Picking up the phone on the nightstand, she glanced at the text on the screen. Tang Minjing. What's up? Li Xiqing's voice seemed to be laced with a bit of ice, freezing her to the bone. On the other side of the phone, Tang Minjing was startled, but she was overjoyed. He had a fight with Su Qianxi at this hour? Feeling excited, Tang Minjing said sweetly, Brother Xiqing, I'm calling to say good night. Li Xiqing's heart sank to the extreme, and even the temperature around him dropped several degrees. That's it. Cold, very cold. Tang Minjing had never felt that Li Xiqing was so cold. She gritted her teeth and said yes. On the other side of the phone, she immediately heard the sound of the phone being hung up. Holding the phone, Tang Minjing felt an inexplicable pleasure in her heart. She seemed to have done something incredible. Throwing the phone away, Li Xiqing looked back and found that Su Qianxi had wrapped herself like a dumpling, curled up at the foot of the bed, looking at him timidly like a frightened deer. There was an inexplicable feeling of vexation in his heart. She actually rejected him. However, last night, no matter what the reason was, Li Xiqing knew that he could not force her. He thought she was playing hard to get, but at this moment, he was not that stupid to do that. Giving her a deep look, Li Xiqing walked into the bathroom and slammed the door, making a loud bang. He turned on the shower and poured cold water over his head. When he came out of the cold shower, she was already asleep in her pajamas. Su Qianxi curled up in the corner with her hands in front of her chest like a baby. It was an extremely insecure sleeping posture. It was a far cry from what it was 2 days ago. However, seeing that she was sleeping so soundly, Li Xiqing felt a bit depressed. This woman, how could he have the cheek to sleep after making him look like this? After so many years in business, Li Xiqing had learned not to lose his temper easily. However, at this time, his heart felt as if he had swallowed a ton of gunpowder, and he was extremely unhappy. Lying down, he grabbed the quilt and covered himself with it. She frowned but did not wake up. This woman was just like a pig. Chapter 37. In the middle of the night, Li Xiqing was woken up by Su Qianxi's voice. He had always been a light sleeper. Hearing her voice, he immediately opened his eyes. Li Xiqing. Frowning, Li Xiqing turned around and looked at her. Su Qianxi curled up into a ball, clutching the sheets under her. Sweating, her eyes were closed, but her breathing was rapid. It's not me, not me. I didn't drug her. I didn't set the fire. I didn't kill her, not me, not in the dream. Tang Minjing held Li Xiqing in her arms, smiling proudly and yelling at him. I will replace you and become Mrs. Li. Su Qianxi, go to hell. Go to hell. And Li Xiqing stood beside her coldly, saying coldly, Su Qianxi and the dog are not allowed to enter. Every word was like a bullet, ruthlessly piercing through her. She was in so much pain, the water covered her head. Help me. In a trance, she gasped and flailed her hands, like a drowning person trying to grasp at a life-saving straw. So desperate and so sad. Li Xiqing looked at her, and was about to wake her up. However, Su Qianxi grabbed his hand tightly. Rejoice and joy radiated from her body in that instant. It was like she had been saved at the moment of life and death. Li Xiqing was dazed by her hug. Su Qianxi was soaked. When she hugged him, her whole body was stuck to him. Li Xiqing frowned. Just when he thought she was doing it on purpose, he heard her even breathing again. She fell asleep again. Li Xiqing was speechless and wanted to push her away. However, Su Qianxi's unconscious hug was much stronger than when she was conscious. He pushed her, but she did not move. When he pushed her again, she hugged him tighter. It's not me, it's really not, she murmured in a low voice, choking with sobs. Li Xiqing no longer moved. In front of his eyes, he seemed to see her shocked and panicked eyes, like a deer that had seen a hunter fleeing in a panic. Well, it's not you. Indeed, it would not be you. She felt that she had not slept well in a long time. Stretching comfortably, she sat up and saw Li Xiqing coming out of the bathroom. His face was handsome and flawless. On his fair skin, there were obvious green circles under his eyes. Seeing him, she felt a bit embarrassed. Last night however, Li Xiqing did not even look at her and walked straight out the door. Being ignored, Su Qianxi let out a sigh of relief. After washing up, she dragged her small suitcase out of the door. Li Xiqing's personality was cold and unruly, and he often disobeyed his elders. However, he had unspeakable respect and obedience towards old Commander Li. 3 days before the wedding, he was forced to live in the old house by his grandfather. Without hesitation, Li Xiqing moved in. But after 3 days, he couldn't wait to move back to his own house, and completely separated from her. Today was the day they moved back to the villa in his previous life. Sure enough, Li Xiqing's driver Yang was already waiting at the door. After saying goodbye to the elders, she got in the car. As soon as she got in the car, her phone rang. It was a strange number from Kingstown. Hello. Chapter 38. He did not call her Miss Su, but Mrs. Li. Su Qianxi was a bit surprised. She had thought that Lu Anan would be bailed out as soon as she went in. She did not expect that Li Xiqing was already so influential. Curling her lips, she narrowed her eyes and said, "I will ask my lawyer to go over. Libel, you can deal with it however you want. Thank you for your hard work." She did not make it clear what she meant. However, the police were not stupid and immediately understood what she meant. "Thank you, Mrs. Lee." Less than 10 minutes after she hung up, another call came in. The familiar name flashed. It was Tang Minjing. She was coming. Su Qianxi took the call and leaned back in the chair, looking at the scenery outside the window without saying anything. "Su Qianxi, what do you mean by this?" Tang Minjing asked directly. "What do you mean? I do not understand. What did my cousin do to piss you off? You will ruin her life." Tang Minjing and Lu Anan were not on good terms, but they were not bad. When she sent someone to bail Lu Anan out, the police said, "She will not be released for defamation." Tang Minjing was pissed off by his words. If there was no one up there, they would not dare to keep Lu Anan in custody at the risk of offending the Tang family. Li Xiqing had never cared about such things, so the first thing she thought of was Su Qianxi. Su Qianxi chuckled and asked, "When you drugged me, why did you not think that you would ruin my life as well? When she maliciously colluded with Lu Anan to accuse her of sleeping with her, why did she not think that her life would be ruined? When she deliberately colluded with the cult to kidnap Li Xiqing and almost killed him, she saved him in the end. However, when she was framed, why did she not think that her life would be ruined? At that time, when she criticized Mrs. Tang and framed her in public, why did she not think that her life would be ruined? Although those things had not happened in this life yet. However, she would remember it for the rest of her life. She would get back what she owed her sooner or later. But now, such a big accusation was pinned on him. What a righteous and awe-inspiring act. If you have anything to say, come to the cafe on XX Street. I also have something to ask you, Tang Minjing said and hung up the phone. Su Qianxi held the phone and did not pay attention. Leaning back in the chair, she closed her eyes. She had put it on speaker, and Yang could hear her voice clearly. Glancing at Su Qianxi through the rearview mirror, he asked, we have passed XX Street. Do we need to turn around?" She opened her eyes and smiled mysteriously. "Did I promise to go?" Yang's expression froze for a moment. He was speechless. It seemed like there really wasn't any. But didn't she always go there before? Miss Tang was Mr. Li's childhood sweetheart. Was it really okay to ignore her like this? Yang wanted to say something, but Su Qianxi had closed her eyes again, as if she had fallen asleep. Quiet and introverted, there seemed to be a layer of fog around her, making her feel very mysterious. It seemed that this madam was a little different. Chapter 39. What happened to Lu Anan was not a big deal, but it was not a small deal either. The video that was recorded yesterday quickly went viral after it was posted on Weibo. She could only ask Su Qianxi, the person involved, to mediate. In the past, when Su Qianxi was with her childhood friend, she would always try to please her. However, after the fight yesterday, Tang Minjing felt that Su Qianxi was not as simple as she thought. She was afraid that Su Qianxi would not come today. Sure enough, Tang Minjing waited in the coffee shop for 20 minutes and still did not see Su Qianxi. He picked up his phone and dialed again, but no one picked up. The flames of anger were instantly unstoppable. But soon, she calmed down and checked her contacts. "I can't deal with you, but someone else can." Su Qianxi went back to the house and asked the servant to clean up another room. She moved all her stuff to the second bedroom across from the master bedroom. It took her more than an hour to finish. She picked up her phone and saw 2 missed calls. It was from the old house of the Li family. She quickly called back, and it was Mrs. Li who answered. "Mom, I heard that you are going to sue Tang Minjing's cousin?" Su Qianxi was dazed. "How did you know?" "Don't sue her." Mrs. Li was very tough. The Tang family and the Li family have been friends for so many years. You can't ruin it like this. Stop it. Su Qianxi was a bit reluctant, but she had to listen to Mrs. Li. Got it. Hanging up, Su Qianxi felt reluctant. She opened Weibo and found that Lu Anan's case had dropped on the trending list. Many of the videos and hot topics had been deleted, and the number was still decreasing. There were plenty of manipulators on the internet. It seemed that Tang Minjing had started to take action. First, she would go to Mrs. Li and then the internet. She would protect Lu Anan from both sides. Haha, she could not let Lu Anan go to jail. However, she had to collect some interest. Turning on the computer, Su Qianxi opened the chat tool that she had not used for a long time. She clicked on a high school friend group and quickly found a name. Louis Han, her desk mate in middle school and high school, an enigmatic male best friend who almost treated computers as his wife. However, after she was taken back by the Su family, they never contacted each other again. Later, he grew rapidly over the years and became the leader of the IT industry in Connecticut. She, on the other hand, had become a prostitute who was despised by tens of thousands of people. The distance between them was getting further and further apart. If she remembered correctly, this was the time when he was at his poorest. In their third year, when everyone was doing their internship, this guy had already started his own business with a few of his buddies. It was a time of shortage of funds, and now she was so poor that all she had was money. Opening the chat window, she went straight to the topic. Su Qianxi, 100,000 yuan. Help me dig up a person's dark history. As a man who almost married his computer, the other side replied very quickly. Louis Han, you have money? Su Qianxi account number. Louis Han. Picture. Account information. A good friend you haven't seen for a long time suddenly wants to give you 100,000 yuan. How would you react? Lu Yihan pushed up the rimless glasses on his face, took a screenshot of his account, and went to get a glass of water. Ding dong. Chapter 40. Kingstown Bank. 100,000. 00 yuan was transferred to your account on July 10, 2016. Balance. Louis Han's brain suddenly buzzed. Louis Han was stunned, but then he screamed and quickly took a few tissues to wipe the computer, feeling distressed. Su Qianxi. Did you get it? Louis Han. Got it. Louis Han. Did you make a fortune? Aren't you still in your junior year? Where did you get so much money? Louis Han. I heard that you married Li Xiqing. Is it true? Is the woman in the video really you? Louis Han. Interesting. Whose dark history are you going to dig up? Let's see if I can dig up all 18 generations of her ancestors. Seeing Louis Han's words, Su Qianxi couldn't help chuckling. This guy really had not changed at all. Her slender fingers quickly jumped on the keyboard, and the message was quickly sent. Su Qianxi, Lu Anan. Seeing the 3 words, Louis Han shook his head and sent an okay gesture. Louis Han. I took her money and helped her out. Don't worry. I will do it. Su Qianxi. Thank you. Louis Han. I also have contacts on Weibo. After you find it, you can push it on Weibo. Su Qianxi. That's what I want, like this girl. Lu Yihan chuckled, but quickly opened the code editor and began to prepare. When Su Qianxi closed the chat window and was about to turn off the computer, a message suddenly popped up. Wanting. Su Qianxi is online? Su Qianxi. Seeing the name, Su Qianxi's heart sank. It was her Lin Wanting. She used to think of as a good friend, who had sent her to the plan of Lu Anan and Tang Minjing, became the main force behind her tragic life. After hesitating for a moment, Su Qianxi clicked on it and replied with a yes. Wanting. I didn't expect you to be here. Long time no see. Woman's good luck. Wow, Mrs. Li is online. Through the screen, Su Qianxi could feel the jealousy in the sentence. Qianqian Junzi, Mrs. Li? What kind of joke is that? Woman's good luck. She married the richest man in Kingstown. Don't you know? Didn't you see the video from yesterday? She had sent Lu Anan to the police station. Qianqian Junzi. No way. They are classmates after all. How much hatred do they have? Wanting. Don't blame Su Qianxi. I've seen the video. Indeed, and it went too far. Woman's good spirit. Lin Wanting, aren't you Lu Anan's good friend? Why are you speaking up for her? Now that she has become Mrs. Li, you want to suck up to her, right? Chaos. In high school, these people had been at odds with her. Now their words were even sharper. She decided to ignore them. Exiting the account, she opened a document and began to type. More than an hour later, the editing was completed. Each of the 30 clauses was clear and concise. Stretching, she looked at the terms, and her eyes dimmed. Even if she did not make the first move, Li Xiqing would make these rules to restrain her. Rather than passively accepting it, it was better to take the initiative. However, Li Xiqing's contract was for 5 years, while hers was for 1 year. Now everything was ready except for the lawyer's seal. Chapter 41. Su Qianxi did not ask Yang to follow her, but took a taxi according to her memory. She went to a law firm that was half an hour away from home. Sheng Ximing. He was one of the most reputable lawyers in Kingstown. In her previous lifetime, she had been framed by Tang Minjing several times and was involved in legal troubles. It was Sheng Ximing who saved her from jail. This was the center of Kingstown. Tang Minjing had taken her there to go shopping. It was Sheng Ximing, whom he had met during lunch. Su Qianxi walked into a restaurant near the Shengshi law firm and found a seat according to her memory. At that seat, a man who looked to be in his 30s was sitting, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. He had a laptop and a stack of documents in front of him. The delicate dishes were not touched much. His brows were furrowed. Obviously, the case he was working on was not easy. In her previous lifetime, he had mistaken her for someone else. Because she looked similar to his old friend, he had tried his best to help her. Later, the day before she was framed and killed by Captain Li, he told her excitedly that he had something very important to tell her. However, she did not even have time to go. What did he want to tell her back then? Su Qianxi felt a bit regretful, looking at him in a daze. Seeming to feel her gaze, Sheng Ximing looked up and looked at her. With just a glance, his sharp, hawk-like black eyes flashed with astonishment. A waiter came over with a tray and handed it to him. "Mr. Sheng, your coffee." Sheng Ximing subconsciously wanted to take it, but he withdrew his hand because of the scorching heat. The coffee cup was knocked over, and the liquid spilled all over the floor. The waiter paled. "Sir, are you okay?" Sheng Ximing shook his head. Enduring the burn, he hurriedly wiped his dirty suit in embarrassment. Subconsciously, he looked in the direction of the girl. But just as he was distracted, the girl who was originally standing there had disappeared without a trace. Was it an illusion? Sheng Ximing felt an indescribable regret in his heart. He withdrew his gaze sulkily, but when he turned his head, he saw a slim figure sitting in front of him. This girl had starry eyes, delicate eyebrows, delicate skin, and a small face. At first glance, she was exactly the same as that person in his memory. However, upon closer inspection, there was an obvious difference. In his memory, that person was as elegant as an orchid, beautiful and radiant. The girl in front of him seemed to be smiling, but there was a faint coldness in the depths of her eyes. It was a coldness that reached the depths of her soul. Even her facial features were more exquisite and distinct than the woman in his memory. However, even though Sheng Ximing had noticed the difference, he was still stunned. Su Qianxi looked at the middle-aged man in front of her with a smile. After all, this was their first meeting. Looking at her smile, Sheng Ximing couldn't help but associate her with the beautiful figure in the depths of his mind. Yes, too similar. Sheng Ximing could not hide the excitement in his heart. Looking at her, his sharp and shrewd eyes were filled with light. "Hello, my name is Su Qianxi." That one sentence dampened most of the excitement in his heart. Chapter 42. Sheng Ximing. Sheng Ximing handed her a business card. Of course, Su Qianxi knew him, so she went straight to the point. Sheng Ximing was very busy. If it was someone else who came to him, he would definitely ignore it. However, this girl looked so much like that person. After understanding her situation, Sheng Ximing took on the responsibility for it. After talking about this, Sheng Ximing hesitated and asked, "It may be a bit abrupt, but I think you look like a good friend of mine. What is your mother's name?" Su Qianxi had expected it, so she did not answer immediately. Sheng Ximing thought she was upset, and quickly waved his hand. "If it is not convenient, Su Han." Sheng Ximing was dazed. This name was completely unfamiliar to him. However, he was not satisfied and continued to ask, "Did you take your mother's last name?" "Yes, I do not have a father." Sheng Shiming heard that and immediately understood. He did not want to ask further. So he checked the time and said that he was leaving. Su Qianxi followed him upstairs to the law firm. After he was done, she carefully put away the 2 documents. Leaving his contact information, Su Qianxi went downstairs and entered a nearby mall. After marrying into the Li family, other than a bunch of clothes that Tang Minjing had picked for her, she only had one good piece of clothing. Of course, she needed to buy some more. When she got home, it was already past 5 p.m. When she got home, she received a call. It was a strange number. "Hello." "Hi." A bright voice came from the other side of the phone. "Louis Han? Bingo TSK. I haven't seen you for 2 years and you've become smarter. Did you find it?" "Of course. Go check Weibo," Louis Han said in a nonchalant tone. Su Qianxi turned on the computer and opened Weibo. Su Qianxi found that the Lu Anan incident had been pushed to the top. The trending topics were all about niece of the Tang family, Lu Anan's abortion, and so on. Su Qianxi browsed through it and found that the information was far more than what she knew later. Wow. Su Qianxi was dumbfounded. Where did you find all this? That's amazing. She had an abortion in high school? Why haven't I heard of it? Nonsense, how could you know about her? In high school, what else did you know besides playing? Louis Han poured cold water on her. Su Qianxi laughed, feeling indescribably happy. However, I really couldn't tell that you're actually a fair, rich, and beautiful girl who has been abandoned by the common people. How is it? The feeling of a counterattack isn't bad, right? Not bad. In any case, I'm much stronger than your slut. Louis Han was so angry that he laughed, but he did not care too much about it. Instead, he felt very close to her. How about it? When will you treat me to a meal? My treat. I remember you owed me a barbecue in high school. Damn, you have such a good memory. How long has it been? Louis Han facepalmed. You want to go back on your word? She couldn't help curling her lips. Half lying on the sofa in the living room, she felt indescribably relaxed. This was the happiest moment she had ever felt in her previous life. This was the feeling of having friends. It was really good. However, she did not know that her every move had fallen into the eyes of the man upstairs. Leaning against the guardrail on the 2nd floor, he looked down at the genuine smile on Su Qianxi's face that he had never seen before. She had never smiled like this in front of him. Chapter 43. Feeling 2 cold and sharp eyes falling on her head, she subconsciously looked up. Caught off guard, she bumped into a cold deep sea. Cold. So cold. Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat and saw his eyes slowly moving down. Following his gaze, Su Qianxi saw a turquoise dress with one leg on the back of the sofa and the other on the armrest. From his angle, he could see a small part of the safety pants on the thigh. Her face immediately turned red, and she sat up straight with a swoosh. Of course not. Louis Han did not notice Su Qianxi's reaction. He opened the fridge and took out a bottle of Coke. How about Saturday night? I'll buy you a big meal. Being stared at by Li Xiqing's aggressive eyes, Su Qianxi felt her scalp tingle. For a moment, hearing Louis Han's words, it was like she was chanting a spell. She answered randomly and hung up the phone. Her heart was beating so fast. Somehow, Su Qianxi felt very guilty. It was like she was caught having an affair. Done talking. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes, his voice slightly husky, as if it was covered with hail. His tone was still the same, no different from usual. However, Su Qianxi felt even more guilty and quickly changed the subject. So you are back already? I thought you would work overtime. Li Xiqing arched an eyebrow and stood up straight. Putting one hand in his pocket, he asked, Do you want me to work overtime? Su Qianxi paused and did not know what to say. In her previous lifetime, Li Xiqing always worked overtime. Moreover, it would be 3 days in total. Every time she called him to urge him to go home, he would only say one word, busy. But now why was he not busy? Su Qianxi stopped talking and whispered, How could it be? The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Nanny Rong said. Sir, madam, dinner is ready. Okay. Su Qianxi glanced at Nanny Rong gratefully, washed her hands, and sat at the table. Li Xiqing walked down from the second floor at a moderate pace. Every step he took made light footsteps. The rhythm was steady and cold. He was like an ancient emperor, high and mighty. Just the sound of his footsteps brought Su Qianxi a strong sense of oppression. Of course, it was mostly because of her guilty conscience. But why did she have to feel guilty? She clearly didn't do anything, did she? Thinking of this, she felt much better. She reached out her chopsticks to pick up some food and put it in her bowl. Then she ate slowly. His movements were elegant, and there was an indescribable sense of beauty in his every movement. Compared to 2 days ago, it was like heaven and earth. However, it could be seen that it was a natural way of eating, and not intentional. How could there be such a huge change in just a few days? Could it be that he had been pretending for the past 2 days? However, what good would it do to her if she pretended to be a useless idiot? Li Xiqing felt more and more confused about this woman. Gathering his thoughts, he elegantly picked up his chopsticks and reached for a piece of shrimp paste. Chapter 44. Su Qianxi looked up at him and saw he was looking at her as well. Suddenly their eyes met. Li Xiqing's eyes were clouded with a layer of mist. Su Qianxi looked away, put down the chopsticks and said, Nanny Rong, get me another pair of chopsticks. Li Xiqing had an inexplicable obsession with cleanliness. In Su Qianxi's previous lifetime, she had once eaten with him, and their chopsticks accidentally bumped into each other. He was furious on the spot. He said, You want to eat my saliva that much? What? Su Qianxi was shocked, not knowing what she had done wrong. However, he then said, Unfortunately, I don't want to eat your saliva. It's dirty. Then he asked the maid to change the chopsticks. In order to prevent her saliva from dirtying him, Su Qianxi had cleverly taken the initiative. However, when Li Xiqing heard her words, he clenched the pure silver chopsticks in his hand. That originally cold and thin face, at this moment, looked like an ice sculpture. Even the temperature around him seemed to have dropped by a few degrees, and it was bone-chilling. Li Xiqing's change made Su Qianxi even more confused. What's wrong? Huh? Li Xiqing chuckled, which made Su Qianxi shiver. Just when she thought he was going to get angry, he just slammed the chopsticks down, got up, and left. This woman thought he was dirty? Good, very good. His tall figure quickly went up to the second floor, and the door to the master bedroom was slammed shut. Su Qianxi was puzzled and angry. This man was really unpredictable. Deciding to ignore this man, Su Qianxi continued to work hard. Ma'am, Nanny Rong said, frowning worriedly. Why is Mr. Li angry? Su Qianxi was annoyed and sneered. He's sick. Nanny Rong was speechless. Sighing, Nanny Rong said, Mr. Li does have a stomach problem. He can't go hungry. Am, can you ask him to come down for dinner? No, I'm not full yet. Su Qianxi was full of resentment. In her previous lifetime, she had been bullied by him all her life. In this lifetime, he wanted her to serve him? Dream on. After dinner, she went upstairs and found that the things in her bedroom had been emptied. Stunned, she turned around to look for Nanny Rong. It turned out that Nanny Rong thought she had put them in the wrong room, so she moved them all back to the master bedroom. Su Qianxi wanted to cry. However, she still walked to the door of the master bedroom and knocked. Mr. Li, no response. However, it seemed that the arrogant Li Xiqing never locked the door. He was confident that no one would dare to barge into his room. She tried to open the door, and sure enough, it was not locked. When he entered the room, there was no one in it. Instead, the sound of running water came from the bathroom. He is taking a bath. Su Qianxi breathed a sigh of relief and took the opportunity to move things back. After going back and forth several times, she had only moved half of it. She was already sweating and panting. When Li Xiqing came out, he saw her moving things around. His brows furrowed. What are you doing? Move things. To where? Chapter 45. He had a strong and powerful upper body with well-defined 8-pack abs. His lower body was wrapped in a bath towel. His sexy and distinct mermaid lines were faintly discernible. His healthy and good-looking wheat-colored skin was slowly dripping with water. As he approached, Su Qianxi felt a gust of hot air approaching her. She suddenly felt even hotter, and her mouth became dry. Subconsciously stepping away, she took a step back and coughed. Although we are married, we have only met twice and had dinner twice before. So we do not know each other well enough. I think we need some time to get to know each other better. Li Xiqing looked at her little movement. His dark eyes were like a quiet pool that had not been disturbed for thousands of years. Flashing a little, he became calm again. As always, he was calm and mysterious. Seeing that he did not speak, Su Qianxi felt a bit nervous and said again, "So, I think it will be better if we sleep in separate rooms. You will be happy this way, won't you?" "Yes," Li Xiqing said quietly. His slightly curly hair was still dripping water, looking cool and sexy. Su Qianxi blushed. Hearing his quiet response, she suddenly felt relaxed. She was really afraid that he would not agree. After all, there were already more than one or two things that happened on a different track from his previous life. If this mysterious man was in a bad mood and refused her, there was nothing she could do. After all, they were legally married. Fortunately, he was still him. No matter how moody he was, he still hated her, right? Thinking of this, Su Qianxi felt relaxed and continued to move things. After half an hour, Su Qianxi finally finished and let out a sigh of relief. After a comfortable bath, when she came out again, it was after 8 p.m. However, there were 3 missed calls on her phone. It was Nanny Rong. Nanny Rong was a servant from the old house. She came to the villa to take care of their daily necessities. However, she had her own family, so she got off work at 7 p.m. When she called back, Nanny Rong's worried voice came through. "Ma'am, has he eaten?" "Well, I don't know." "How can you not know?" "Ma'am, his stomach is not good. If he does not eat well, his stomach will hurt." "Madam, you'd better cook something for sir. It's not good if he's hungry." "Madam," she frowned. "I know. I really owe him." With that, he hung up the phone. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. After drying his hair, he slowly walked to the kitchen. He opened the fridge, grabbed a few simple ingredients, and cooked a bowl of noodles. 10 minutes later, she walked to the master bedroom and knocked on the door. "Mr. Li?" No one responded. He opened the door and went in. The room was empty. Not here. She immediately thought of another place, the study. Occasionally, Li Xiqing would take his unfinished work home to do. But every time, he would only bring it back in order to deal with the elders. If there were no elders, he would rather work overtime in the company than come home. Thinking of how busy he was in his previous life, the possibility of him working in the study was very high. With a fluke, she took the tray to the door of the study and knocked. "Mr. Li?" Through the door, Su Qianxi could hear the voices inside. They must be talking on the phone. She stopped and stood at the door. When she was about to knock again, the door was open from the inside. However, the door of the study was facing the outside. Chapter 46. Su Qianxi exclaimed and took a step back. However, the soup had already flowed down the sides of the tray. The boiling hot soup flowed down from her lower abdomen, leaving a large trail in front of her thin silk nightgown. Su Qianxi gasped in pain and took the tray a little further away from him. Li Xiqing did not expect her to have such a dangerous thing in her hand. He was dazed for a second, but quickly realized what was going on. He took the tray from her and looked at the mark on her body. It was summer. In order to keep cool, she was wearing a silk nightgown, which was very thin and refreshing. The water stain happened to be on her belly, clearly reflecting the curve of her mermaid line and panties. Yes, a powder blue nightgown and a powder blue panties. He glanced at it and suddenly felt uncomfortable. He asked in a hoarse voice, "Are you okay?" Su Qianxi's eyes were red. She gave him a stare and said, "Why don't you try getting burned by the freshly cooked noodles?" Li Xiqing looked at the noodles on the tray that had half of the soup spilled on it. His frown relaxed a little. You cooked it for me? It was Nanny Rong. Su Qianxi lifted her nightgown and felt the heat on her body. She felt wronged. Nanny Rong called me and asked me to cook noodles for you. Li Xiqing heard that and his eyes darkened. His lips seemed to curl up slightly. His voice was calm and steady. I didn't expect Nanny Rong to be so open-minded. Su Qianxi was dazed. It took her a long time to understand. Blushing, she was speechless. You. Inexplicably, seeing her like that, Li Xiqing's bad mood suddenly lightened. Holding the tray in one hand, he grabbed her arm with the other and said, Let's go. I'll apply the medicine for you. Apply medicine? Su Qianxi glanced at her lower abdomen, which was still burning. But she was wearing a dress. And a super thin silk dress. If he wanted to apply medicine, he would have to lift it up? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but think of the magnificent scene she saw that morning and blushed even more. She quickly withdrew her hand and said, No, you go eat the noodles first. Just some soup spilled. The noodles can still be eaten. I will wash them myself. No. Li Xiqing's voice was firm. I did it, and I will take responsibility. His black eyes were cold and filled with indescribable seriousness. For some reason, Su Qianxi was pulled away without saying anything. When she realized it, she was already sitting on the sofa in the living room. Li Xiqing put the noodles on the table and brought over a medicine box. Su Qianxi's face suddenly turned red. She quickly stood up and grabbed the medicine box, saying, I can do it myself. You go eat first. Don't be hungry. Sit down. The dignified voice seemed to come from the authority of a king, and it did not allow for the slightest disagreement. She still wanted to say something, but he suddenly reached out and held her hand. His rough and large hands were scorching hot. Li Xiqing's other hand was on her shoulder, pushing her onto the sofa. Immediately, his whole body was pressed against her. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.